it's time for more trails. I wanted to stream more trails on Tuesday, but then I updated my Windows and that killed all my audio. That took a whole night to fix. So we're back with trails again. At least once this week. I will not be streaming tomorrow. I'll be back on Monday. It sounds like. And it also sounds like Monday may be a co-op stream, but that is tentative. So let's go ahead and load this game up. I hope it just works. I don't think I changed anything. Here we are. And play. Yes. Last night, I played my first game of Warhammer 40k. That was fun as fuck. I played Blood Angels, and I did a lot of work. I was surprised. I thought I was gonna get absolutely destroyed. Okay, you can hear the game, but you can't see it. 1 second. I thought I was gonna get absolutely destroyed, but it was Horde mode, so I had 2 other players on the same team as me, which was good. Where? Hold on. Let's get this to. There we go. Now try. Aha! Perfect. There we go. Also, hello Zarksik. I hope you're ready. I hope you're strapped in for another riveting trail stream. And in that 40k game, so in that game, we had a 500 point army, and the person running the crusade, which is like a campaign made up of multiple 40k games, helped me put together an army, because I had never played 40k tabletop. I only played the video games, so being able to play the tabletop was a lot of fun. Of course, this is online on like tabletop sim, but still, it was a good time. And the people running the games, or rather the more experienced players too, were very helpful in being patient with me and showing me how to play the game. Someday I'll play the tabletop. It's intensive, but if you've rolled dice in like fucking D&D or something like that, it's the same thing. The hardest part for me was knowing movement rules and knowing how to read stat blocks. That took me a bit. Was learning how to read stat blocks. The other thing too is there is a lot of modifiers. Like certain units, they have a specific weapon and they hit something or they attack something, they have more accuracy. But the enemy they're attacking might have some kind of modifier that nullifies that and makes it even worse, or not, or turns it into a negative instead, and it's a lot to keep up with. So what it sounds like is that you kind of just know what your army is capable of, and then whoever's playing the enemy will know what their army's capable of, and you just bring it up and whenever it's relevant. It is a lot to keep track of though. Not too bad if you do a couple rounds. That my first turn, the first round of the game is 5 rounds, right? And each round is made up of multiple phases. You got the command phase, reinforcements, which lets you fortify objectives. It's like you're capturing an objective basically. There's like multiple objectives on the map, and you're trying to capture them and defend them from the enemy. And there's a psyker phase. I think that's what they called it. I don't know if they're partly joking, but I guess psychers, because they are psychers and bullshitty, they get their own phase because they're psychers. There's a movement phase. There's a shooting phase. That's for range attacks. There's a charge phase. That's where you roll to move your models into melee range. And then there's a melee phase. Or I think it's called a fight phase, but still. It's a lot to keep track of. Having some people who knew how to play the game though, and were very patient with me, was extremely helpful though. But it is a lot of fun. I could see why people get really into 40k. Also, tabletop sim doesn't cost anything other than the base game itself, which is helpful. Because those models, I think, those models will run for like hundreds of dollars, and you don't get a whole lot of them. Not enough to like make an actual army. You could literally be playing with like thousands of dollars worth of plastic with somebody. It's kind of fucking insane, man. Not a cheap hobby to get into. It's best to stick to tabletop sim. Enough of that bullshit. No, I don't want to start a game. Where are we? Size City. I also didn't know any of the other players too, which didn't help. But again, they were very, very patient with me. And my turn took fucking forever to get through. For the first few rounds, my turn always took the longest to get through, but the first two rounds were pretty rough because I didn't know shit. I knew absolutely nothing. I went in completely and utterly blind. What the hell am I doing? No objectives. Okay, we did the White Shadow last time, so chapter 2. Ah, yes, the earthquake. And the two who were leading it, I met with them once previously just to go over setup and doing their online. They have like a website that keeps track of the Crusade games. Okay, so the earthquake in Zeiss is right. We have a bunch of side stuff. Okay, there's a monster in the tunnel, monster in the plains. We need to get the gun for Olivier. That's a boss fight. Okay, let's go do these side quests. I believe Doomguide is playing this game currently. I think it was his turn to play tonight. I hope he's doing well. I think his is just a 1v1 though. I don't think his is a board mode. So for the gun, that's on the 3rd floor. Yeah, workshop 3rd floor. And let's talk to Killing. Okay, let's go to the 3rd floor first. Is it this guy? Yes. Got a sec. We're from the guild. Oh, you came. Huh? What is it? No, you... Aren't you the person who delivered that prototype from Ruan a while back? Did I? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. You came to the weapon shop with a black-haired boy. Black-haired boy? That's gotta be Joshua. Thinking about it, I guess that might have happened. Well, if you're curious, have a look in your notebook. More importantly, I think right now we should talk work. Right. So then, did you come because you saw the board? Of course. Looks like you're recruiting testers for an orbital gun. Actually, but I was just having problems since I wasn't getting many respondents. I know it's kind of sudden, but can I give you the explanation of the job now? Yes. Go ahead. Let me explain. As you know, my request is a test of an orbital gun. I want you to check the reliability of this gun through live battle. Check the reliability? To put it very simply, I want you to test its endurance. All machines have failings you never know unless you use them. The causes of many problems are usually things no one even imagined during the development period. I want to pinpoint any hidden weaknesses in checking the reliability of my gun as a weapon. That's the goal of this test. I believe I understand the intent. To use a bit more specialized term, you want a combat demonstration. Yes, exactly. Incidentally, are you the shooter who'll be doing the test? It is a singular pleasure to meet you. I am the roaming poet and musician, the indomitable hunter of love, the one and only Olivier Ledheim. Hunter? Just ignore that. He might be a total weirdo, but his skill with his gun is legit. Oh? What's that? Did I detect a slight imbalance of emphasis on the former part of your speech rather than the latter? Well now, what does it matter? Everyone acknowledges your ability. I see. Well, in that case, I guess I'll just trust you. Consider yourself without fear, my good man. This really be okay. And anyway, for now, here's the gun. O-type orbital gun alpha. That's the gun I'd like you to test. As thanks for coming, I'll let you have that gratis. Well, that is a most generous gift. Still, this gun. It's got a somewhat unique structure. Of course it does. I'd be more upset if you were familiar with it. After all, the drive portion of this is a new model I developed. How about it? Think you can handle it? But of course. I'm sure that this gun will play a most beauteous harmony. Great to hear. If you're done stroking that gun, Olivier, I'd like to know more about the job. We still haven't heard exactly what we should be doing. Haha, true enough. Well, please go on. It's more or less as you said. Basically, I want you to wield this gun in live combat, then come back with results. I'd like you to test it over on the Trat Plains Road. That way, even if trouble comes up, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Understood, Trat Plains Road. At a minimum, I'd like you to fight 10 battles. Of course, I want you to fight them to the end, which should be simple. Fleeing over and over wouldn't be much of a combat test. Let me check then. Go out into the Trat Plains Road equipped with this gun. Then fight about 10 battles to victory there. Then, once that's complete, return here and report. Is that about it? I think that should do it. If you don't have any more questions, I'd like you to get to it. Everything clear? Yep, I think I've got it. We'll be back soon. Olivier, I'm trusting you. Worry not, I never disappoint. Said Olivier, who's never disappointed. Waste floor. I'm not gonna quite go into the caves just yet, because those places can be kind of dangerous, so... He needs to have this equipped, unfortunately. Let's find the other two carry on. Okay, the other thing was to get the sign from, Kilika. Actually, no. What am I talking about? I can just go into the caves now. I keep forgetting I'm doing a New Game Plus run. Okay. The story mode one. It was a lot of fun, that 40k game. I had, so it was a 500-point army, so the leader helped me put together an army. Well, and when I say help me, I mean he put the army together for me to use. It was, I had a captain, so there's character type models that you can use. Is there supposed to be like heroes, I guess would be the best way to put it. I had a captain with a jetpack, or sorry, jump pack. Oh, I can't go in there. Did I misread this quest? Call the Automa monster. Whale frog. Okay, he might actually be in there and I just haven't found him. I forgot that. I have a quartz that disables the, disables encounters. He should be in here somewhere. Yes, I had a captain. He was my character with a jump pack. I'm going to name him something. I haven't decided yet. Just so it's easier for people to discern that he's not just a regular grunt. And his unit, which is a group of models, was a Sanguinary Guard, which are like golden-clad Space Marines. I'm probably gonna get some of the lore wrong here. The golden-clad Space Marines. They look like angels, is what they look like. Equipped with spears. Spears. I think they're called Encarmine lances or spears or something like that. They hard carried everything for me in that game. They were flying around, they were kicking the shit out of things, they were not taking a whole lot of damage themselves. I think one of them died initially, but my secondary, or my secret objective, I guess, since we were all different factions, we had like secret objectives we had to complete. My secret objective was to fortify, so I was the base builder. I was building shit while we were pushing back, and a horde of orcs, 5 waves of orcs. I built a mesh. I built a hospital so I could regenerate my troops. I also had what were called intercessors, which are like not really scouts, but they're just like your standard space marines. They got bolters and shit. They didn't do a whole lot except hold 1 point, because I think I lost 2 of them early on. 2 or 3 of them early on. But I had to wait for my hospital to be built first. Okay, that's the boss dead. There is going to be chests in here. I'm not too worried about the chests, really, but... in fact, it's probably a waste of time for me to even really be exploring in here. But my golden boys were doing a lot of work. I also had my 4th unit was a tank. It's called a repulsor executioner. It's a big ass tank. I equipped it with a heavy laser destroyer, I think is what it's called. Roll out that laser cannon death sentence to all the orcs. That thing did a shit ton of work. What I did was I placed it. I had it moved to a choke point. I could kind of see, not across the map, but like it could see between they're called ruins, which are like structures. I placed it at a choke point and I did not move it. I moved it once. That was to adjust its movement so I could see more of the battlefield. But it did not move a single inch that game after that. For good reason. It has a trait called heavy on its laser. And I think something else. But what heavy does is if it doesn't move, if you choose not to move, then you get a bonus to hit, I think. That's what it is. Is that hit or damage? That thing fucked up a lot of stuff. That thing was murdering shit. Whatever it looked at died. Which is good because players, we did random rolls for the person who was controlling the orcs. The orc AI, quote unquote. Oh, about the sign. And he had us roll random rolls to see what he pulled out of the orc bag. There we go. He pulled a lot of vehicles. And that tank made short work of those vehicles. Now, orcs aren't... It's my understanding that orcs, unfortunately, aren't very strong. In fact, they're actually very weak. Their biggest strength is that there is a shit ton of them. There is a lot of orcs. And the vehicles can be filled with units, so when a vehicle dies, like, all of a sudden, like an army of, they're goblins, but they're called grots. An army of grots will appear because they're, like, flying out of the truck as it explodes. I think they also got... We spawned what's it called? A boom bomber or something? It's an airplane. It's a fucking airplane. That thing was trying to kill my intercessors. We blew that shit up because the tank has anti-air stuff on it. And they also had a, shit, what was the last? It was called a Gorkanaut, which is like a massive orc mech. That thing was fucking enormous. Well, my army performed really well. My sanguinary guard were kicking a lot of ass, and I never even played the game before, but I did very well, I guess. You get XP when you kill things, you can allot it to your units, and I allotted, I think almost... My intercessors didn't get shit, but my sanguinary guard and my hero, my captain, got a lot of XP, and so did my tank, which is going to be very helpful. Seems you had to look at the bulletin board. Will you help with the investigation too? Yes, that's the idea. So by the sign, do you mean the sign with the crest that hangs outside the branch? Yes, that sign was stolen. There are no particular practical problems as is, but the emblem is the symbol of the guild's mission and duty. With that stolen, you can't just sit quietly. I see. Kinda hard to ignore that. Really, it looks like someone doesn't think much of us. So what's the series of events? It was discovered yesterday around noon by Branch Bracer Wong. I need to adjust something. There we go, okay. When he came back to report, he realized the sign was missing. We think that the crime happened during the day then. I was away at the time on other business, but a worker in front of the branch witnessed it. It seems the criminal was a person in a disguise. Disguise? Estelle, could it be? No way. It seems you have a suspicion. So how about this? Beauteous princess and her companions. The soul of gathered heroes is in my hands. Should you desire its release, you must defeat my curse. The first key is in the city. Search the back of the 40-year-old man. This card was sent shortly after the crime was discovered. From the content, I assume it's declaring responsibility for the crime. It seems it is certain. I knew it. It's him. By him, I assume you mean Phantom Thief Blueblanc. I have heard about the events in Rouen from Jean. I suppose this case marks a challenge from Phantom Thief B. Interesting. It is a challenge from none other than my rival. Of course I shall accept. I don't know, it seems one-sided, yeah? True, it is a very selfish challenge. We have to accept it though. Anyway, let's start our investigation with what the card says. Let's see. The card's words, in the city, and the back of the 40-year-old man. Huh. If we take it straight as is, I guess we gotta look for an older guy. Certainly looking at it in a literal sense it would mean that, but after the case at the school, I think it's clear that it won't be so straightforward. Those messages were all metaphors, weren't they? I wonder if this one is too. Well, who knows. There's no point in worrying about it though. Let's start investigating in the city. Yes, I think that's the only real option. Well then, I'll expect good results. Leave it to us. Let's be off. Okay, so unlike the remake, this is not going to be, there's nothing marked, so I have to kind of, I think it's the clock. In year 1162, the something challenge, or something, okay. Yeah, it is the clock, okay. I'm kind of remembering. Holy crap! Did you find something? Yeah, you could say that. There's no doubt about it. That's his card. So what's written on it? 1 second. Beauteous princess and her companions. That which you seek is yet far off. Your second key is in the central factory. Search within the wisest one. I think that's the computer. And that's it for our next hit. I see. So our next stop is the central factory. Yeah, we know the place, but who do you think this wisest one is? It's not Professor Russell, right? Whoever it is, we know where our next clue can be found at least. Let's go and see what we can find. Let's be off. Let's go. I think it's the computer. I hope it's the computer. Now, well, I can remember where the computer is. It's in here. No, that's the office. Okay, this is the workshop, but is it in the workshop? I don't remember where the computer is. No, okay. 4. Not in 4, okay. That's the greenhouse. 5. The Capels, that's what it's called, the Capel system. Okay, we already looked at all this last time. Can I look for the Bracer Guild sign? The metal sign removed from the Zeiss branch of the incompetent Bracer Guild by the genius and dashing Phantom Thief Blueblanc. While its financial value is insignificant, the shock to guild members is likely considerable, and reading this now must fill you with shame. Ah, I have probably said enough. I need to provide the next key. The third key is in the city. Gaze up at the 3 hatted brothers. This entry will self-delete. You are recommended to commit this entry to a memo immediately. Sure enough, it self-delete. Okay, we read this last time in the remake. A timeline of the timeline of the events of the quartz technology. Why the heck is something like this written in the Capel? How such a thing was accomplished, I do not know, but the data appears to have been overwritten. Even for my enemy, I must say, bravo. My, he really is a bottomless bag of tricks. Putting that aside, you wrote that down, right? Yeah, of course. Our next stop's somewhere in town. I believe we're searching for 3 hatted brothers. It must be a metaphor of some kind. That's plenty enough to go on, thankfully. Let's head into town. Okay, back out to the city. I'm blanking on this, so I'm going to look around. And hopefully I can remember. She wrote it down, right? Three-Hatted Brothers. Three-Hatted Brothers. What the hell does that mean? Well, there's 3 stores, so... In here, maybe? No. Guys worried about the earthquake. So this is where the problem is. Amazing. It looks like he just lifted the crest portion. Really? What a dexterous person. Okay, so it's not here. Is it at the back? No. What about this side? It could be inside. Look up at the Three-Hatted. Oh. I just realized you can see into that building in here. Weird. In here. Upstairs, maybe. No. 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 Okay, and the last one. Right here. The bar. The bar. Anything up here? Might have just looked it up. Yada yada. Oh, right, because of the tomato. Tomato sandwich. I love tomato sandwiches, man. But they make it seem like the tomatoes in this game are not very good. Where the fuck? Ah, there we go. Here are 3 chimneys at different heights. Hey, don't you think this could be the Three-Hatted Brothers? All 3 are at different heights. I see. Perhaps this is what they meant. What was meant by brothers. This seems to be the only building with 3 chimneys at different heights. I'd say it's possible. Why don't we have a look? There's a card stuck to the chimney pipe. Alright, found it. The door has already been opened. Let the souls of heroes descend into the quiet earth. Raise your voice high and chant to the goddess. C26DE. I think this step is the last. Please let it be the last one. Still, chant to the goddess in the quiet earth of all things. The quiet earth is probably exactly what it sounds like. Somewhere underground. The problem is goddess and the incomprehensible part after that. Well, for now, let's go underground. There's only one place I can think of when you say underground and ice. Let's get going. That would be the caves. Can we actually go into the cave? Or, I want to say it's where the king penguin was. But I don't remember. Okay, he's in the ground. C26D. Wish these damn earthquakes would stop. And on top of those, that creepy dude in black. Something bad is going on, mark my words. The dude in black? Did you see someone suspicious? Oh yeah, some weirdo came through here yesterday. He was standing right over there just looking. You don't really get a whole lot of people coming through here, so you see. But it made me uncomfortable. Well, that certainly does qualify as suspicious, yes. Can you remember anything else about this person? Couldn't forget the dude if I tried. Okay, first, dude was huge. I mean, he was wearing a dark suit and gloves, right? But even then, I could tell he was ripped. And he had those sunglasses, too, like he was so he was like a horse on the freaking escalator. Sunglasses? What are those? You don't know? They're special glasses that block the rays of the sun. You'll know when you see them. The lenses are really dark. Doesn't that mean you can't see what's in front of you? Nah, you can still see just fine. They're handy, actually. Still though, never seen anyone around here use them. I noticed. Glasses like those should make finding this man simple. Dark suit, dark gloves, even his glasses are dark. This guy might as well wear a big "suspect me of something" sign on his forehead. In dark lettering, I guess. You better go tell Kilika about this. Yes, I agree. Once we investigate the fort, we can report it all at once. So, I don't know what this is all about, but I hope I was able to help. Yeah, you were a big help. Thanks for talking to us. Okay, I think that's an optional conversation. I'm trying to think. This is underground. T-2060. E-2060. White Earth Goddess C-2060. Oh, DE, my bad. See, I want to say it's back where the crystals caves are, but I don't remember. This cave seems a lot smaller in the remake. I don't know why. Okay, it might be a light. Okay, this is the base. But there's not a whole lot of reason that I don't think it's here. Okay, this is the underground. I'm just gonna look it up. I did this already once before, and I don't fucking remember, man. Trails SC. 26 ET. Ah, I see. My mistake was thinking it's the caves. It's not the caves. It's the underground factory. It's the factory part. It's the basement. My bad. I fucking forgot. I haven't done this in a while. Cross the bridge. Now, unfortunately, it sounds like it'll be a while before I get to play Warhammer again, but it's fine with me. That game took like 6.5 hours. I put aside time so I could get there early because we're playing with people from other different time zones. So first off, getting everybody together and agreeing on a time was hard to do. But a lot of the time was saved because I didn't know how to play. I apologize. I don't know. I'm fucking new. I'm being taught to play the game as we play. I don't know how to play. I'm gonna take a long time to learn my turns. Oh, hey, you guys. Been a while. How you been? Hey, it's been alright. How about you? Things are crazy busy here as always. And thanks to you, I made up with Brahm. So I'd say my life's pretty good at the moment. You here on the job too? Basically. So there's something we'd like to ask you. Oh, what's that? Could you look at this? Estelle showed Faye the memo left by Blue Blanc. Quiet Earth, chanted the goddess, and a text string. What about it? We think it's indicating this spot, but there are parts we don't understand. We thought we'd ask you to see if you had an idea. So you think this message is about the basement factory? If that's the case, then... Did you think of something? Could this goddess be me? We're not too worried about that part. It's the bit below that, the number thingy. Right. Right, this texturing, C26DE. From the look of it, I'd say it's a product ID code. A product code. Yeah, all the things in the warehouse are organized by these codes. So as long as you know the code, we should be able to call it up using the conveyor. So, could you call it this number? Sure, can I give it a try? Yes. Please, if you would. No problem, give me 1 second. This is Faye, got a moment? I'd like you to send item C26DE over here. Yeah, C26DE. Thanks, appreciate it. Well, you're in luck. They said they found something under that number. Just sending it out. It really was here? Seems like the person in charge over there is pretty shocked too. Now then, let's see what we get. Turbo what? Looks like it's coming. Huh? The heck is that? Seems kind of familiar. Ah, thank goodness. Finally found it. Oh, isn't that the Bracer Guild? Yep. Thanks for the help. It was nothing really, but why the heck was the guild sign in our warehouse? Where to even start? I'd sit down if I were you. It's a long story. There we go. It's all fixed up. You did well to reclaim it. I had every confidence in you. Glad we were able to live up to your expectations. But man, this time you really got jerked around by Phantom Thief B. Yes, it feels like once again we got a good picture of just how strong he is. Perhaps that was his intention all along. He's trying to intimidate us by showing off his power, in other words. Don't know if he thought it through that far, but still. One way or another, it's obvious he's no ordinary foe. Can't talk. Be sure to tread with caution. Wise words from a wise woman. Yeah. This task is officially complete. With that, I'd like you to return to your main mission. Understood. If you'll excuse me. Alright, it's another one done. So all we have is bosses and the gun. Oh, we have to go to the base too. But we'll do that on the way to the other one. Okay. So we have the Trap Plains monster, which you can one-shot. We have to do 10 fights with the gun, which should be fast, and we have to go to Lacen Fortress. And this wants us to go to Wolf 4, which we're not going to do just yet. We are going to go south first. That's Wolf 4, so we're going to go south. We're going to just kill a bunch of shit on the way there. Oh, maybe not. I gotta unequip this, where is it? Who's got it? Is it... Oh, Chloe doesn't have any cords, so I should put some stuff on her. Okay, so... No... Is it on Olivier? It is, he has Cloak on. Okay. So let's put, we'll put Confuse on him. And the other two... So this is Shira. I'd like her to go fast, if possible. Although range is good too. Heaven's Eye. Cast 2. Action 3. Move 3. Okay. And Chloe. Water Quartz. Give her Mind 4. And Skin Yang. Combine the effects of Haze and Heal, that's fine. MP, no. Luck, sure, why not? Action 4. Yeah, I should make sure we go fast and we kick ass. I just gotta farm these things. We have to kill 9 more fights.
Well,
I think.
takes care of that.
As long as the, I think the bosses count. I don't see why they wouldn't. Alright, chests are not marked. Crafts. Hurricane. Arcane seems so small in the remake. It's really big in this game. There we go.
Nicely done.
Another one dead. That's 3, right? I don't know if there's anything new at Elmo Village. We will check it though. Because we need to search for this this boss. This will be 4.
Oh, are we done already?
It's 4. Of course, there's random chests. I don't need anything out of them, but if I see them, I will grab them. Because I'm compelled to. Well, these are the creepy sheeps, that's right.
Take that!
Critted for 1 damage. Excellent. Okay. Was that 5? That's the other thing. Each enemy here in these old games, each enemy is 1 fight. In the remake, each enemy is just 1 enemy. Because it does that seamless thing from overworld to combat arena.
Done already?
But here, if you wanted to kill this creepy sheep, that's like 8 battles, 8 separate turn-based battles you have to go through. Thank God for turbo mode. Is this thing I'm gonna kill? No.
Take that!
With the stick. There we go.
We're good to go.
Good to go. Okay, it might be back here. There's a chest, though. I'm not gonna do fishing if I can help it. In this game, fishing isn't super interesting. It's a lot more fun in later games, and they redid the mini game a few times. In this game, I found it more tedious than anything. Because you want 100% this game, then you have to do fishing. Okay. This is Elmo Village. Now, I believe if you rest here in the hot springs, you get limit break gauge. Well, maybe we can't use it. Oh, welcome. Long time no see, Mrs. Mal. Estelle, it has been a while. You seem a lot more grown up since the last time we met. Really? Madam, thank you for your care the other day. Oh, I thought I knew you. If it isn't Olivier, what brings you back, dear? I have my reasons. Currently, I'm accompanying Estelle as a supporter. Do you two know each other? Yes, dear, he stayed here not that long ago. He's the first customer we've ever had that played a lute in the baths. I guess you do the same thing everywhere. Tis the sacred duty of all those dedicated to the arts. Time and location mean nothing to one who serves the goddess of beauty. Yeah, but playing your lute in the buff? And now that image is in my head. Ew. Well, one way or another, glad you liked our baths. How about staying for a while? I think we'd all love to, but unfortunately we're in the middle of work. We'd have to have our soak a little later on down the line. Right on the job again? Don't you bracers ever take a day off? Well, at least take a quick dip before you go. You're all welcome to go in anytime. That sounds really nice. If we get some time, we'll definitely take you up on that. Yes, because this gives limit break gauge. There we go. So there's no notification, but you can see the limit break gauge is maxed out. I'll never understand. So in later games, you can do the same thing. If you take the if you use the hot springs, you get your limit break gauge. But for some reason, in later games, you only get 100 limit break gauge. Now the cap is 200. So you have to rest twice every single time. It doesn't really make sense to me why they don't just max it out like they do in this game. Padding time. Padding game time. Okay, so... I don't know where this boss is. I went to peek at a map. Like I said before, I'm not gonna get every bracer point. There's no way. Oh, it might be on this way. We still have to kill these things too.
Take that.
Seems you came up short.
I don't recall if they say anything once you hit the 10 fights.
99 kitty cats.
99 kitty cats.
Take that.
Here we go.
Seems you came up short.
Okay, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna hug the walls, and on the way back, the other side is a chest here. This gets hard. That's a fishing rod, I think. It's this damn monster, man. He's probably here. Okay, so there's a tower here. Oh shit! I don't think I went to the other tower, did I? No, I did because I had to take a picture. I think you can do that thing I said for the first game, where you can go to the top of the towers and you get additional dialogue later on. In fact, might have to do that. Luckily I have an evade gem. There it is. Okay, let's go this thing. Does she have a new attack? She does, the Sanctus Nova. Now look, Christ is the prayer. Resides rivers of light to defeat foes. Let's see what this looks like.
Oh, and you, great Sephian Overseer. Shine down thy radiance and smite those who oppose us. Divine light,
Oh god.
grant me the strength to punish the wicked.
That is gonna look sick in the remake.
Well, that takes care of that.
That takes care of that. I'm looking forward to seeing that in modern graphics. September 2026. Of course, you have to level up to get those, but like I think those are like late game stuff. Okay, I'm gonna throw my cloak back on. I just run to the top. Where's the cloak? There it is. Okay, this disables all fights, or random fights. I don't know if there's anything at the top. I can't remember. This is the red tower. The Carnelia Tower. I'm not too interested in the equipment here. Like I said before, these towers are basically dungeons, and they have, I call them chapter equipments, and chapter equipments are like the strongest equipment you can get for a chapter. You don't usually get chapter equipment for all characters in your party, but it saves you a lot of money, especially in this game where making money is actually really difficult. You only get money for doing jobs, if I remember right. Oh, good, they have white. Excellent. I'm so glad counter isn't a thing in this game too. If you miss something, you don't get auto-attacked back. Okay, I'm near the top. Is it here? Yes. Okay, there's no prompt here. I didn't think there would be. But it changes dialogue if you go to the top of each tower. Okay, I want to go this way, please. I don't remember my way back. I went in a big circle, didn't I? And there's no map in here. You gotta do this completely blind. Okay, this way? There we go. Looking for the way down, please. Maybe. Okay. Maybe. Maybe, yes. Floor 2. Floor 1. And exit. There we go. Okay, everything's been slain. Shit. I lost count of how many fights I did. But that's fine. We'll just kill on the way back. Kill the creepy sheeps. The nice and easy. Okay. 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 Okay.
Enjoy the show. Take that.
That's 2 there. I'm pretty sure I did at least 4, right? So I need to do 6. It's 3. Now, it's easy to miss quests in this game
Enjoy the show.
compared to the remake. But I'm gonna run back Handy's in before we run to the fort. I'll put my cloak back on though, so it's just a straight run back.
We're good to
That's
go.
5. This should be 6.
Nicely done.
Might be a bonus for doing 20, but I don't care. In the remake, I'll go for bonus objectives, but
Take that. Take that.
this older form of the game is a lot slower. Much slower. One more for good measure.
Enjoy.
Okay. Now let's hand these in. I'm gonna run to the factory, hand in the gun. And he's all in one fell swoop. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Oh. Report. Kind of report? Yeah, we fought the battles. Well then, allow us to report the results to date. Olivier reported the current results of the test to Carl. Seems like you fought enough. Man, it looks like you worked pretty hard, too. Thanks. As but a humble assistant, it was the least I could do. So, Olivier, were there any problems? No, absolutely no problems. Stable trajectory and a perfectly centered balance. I'm eager to see a fine piece of work like this out in the market. Thank goodness. You have no idea how relieved I am to hear that. Alright, seems I can finally see the production phase on the horizon. Oh, it's not going to be mass-produced yet? It looks like it's pretty done from my point of view. No, it still needs a bit more time. I need to hone in on the fine details of the manufacturing. And I'm able to do that because of the results you got me from this test. This new info should make further research fly ahead. Keep up the good work. A new model orbital gun. I'll be expecting great things. Look forward to it. Oh, right. 1 sec before you go. Was there something else? Yeah, take this with you. 3 quarts. It's bothering me a bit that the reward was kind of meager. Well, think of this as making up for that. It's not a bad thing to have a bit of, so please take it. Yeah, thanks. We'll be glad to use it. Well then, if anything else comes up, I'll call you guys. You all take care. See you later. Alright, this can be handed in. now we hand the rest of us these ends. Report. Okay, so that's the gun, that's the monsters. Okay, so all we have left is the wolf forts, right? Lacen Fortress. Okay, Lacen Fortress is not Wolf Fort. I believe Lacen Fortress is on the Ritter Roadway. Oh, I can equip my cloak now. Here we go. Okay. That's just a straight run to the fort, which I believe is just along the road. I think. Check. Solet Army Road, Sanctime Gate. Oh no, it is this way, okay. I think. Lacen Fortress, yes, okay. This is a boss fight, if I remember right. All the way to the end. No fast travel. You're going on foot. Go ahead and save. There we go. This is Lacen Fortress, headquarters of Her Majesty's Royal Army. Civilians are currently barred from entry. Oh, but we're here about the request you posted on the guild board. Yes, the one which requested help for special training. Did your commander not inform you we were coming? Ah, that, yes. Command did say something about that, now that you mention it. Not even a soldier, and they've roped you into helping with the training, huh? I certainly don't envy you. Oh, it's part of the job. Anyway, could you get whoever's in charge? Certainly, but are you sure you're ready? Ready? What do you mean? You've been engaged in a rigorous training program for some time now, with no significant rest breaks. They're probably going to toss you to the meat grinder as soon as you go in. So if you need to change equipment or get anything, you should take care. Right, buddy, come on. No, we're good. Would you mind writing a bit then? Not a problem. Once you're ready, just say the word and I'll let you in. Ugh, that's my voice. Okay. Oh, never mind. Here he is now. Sir. Huh? Major Sid, I haven't seen you in ages. It's nice to see you again. My apologies for all the trouble we caused you during the kidnapping of Professor Russell. You really deserve a much more formal apology at some point, but... No, it's okay. I mean, you let us get away. Your gratitude does me more credit than I deserve, Miss Bright. Anyway, we saw your posting on the board at the guild. You're doing some kind of special training, right? Yes, I'd intended for it to be a simple, standard training session, but General Morgan is due to arrive at the base shortly. I thought I'd give the men an extra vigorous workout to make sure they're ready to show off, as it were. Yeah, that makes sense. He's got such a booming voice. You have to be ready for it. It'll totally throw you off. Indeed. Normally, General Bright would be in charge of this sort of thing. However, he's not present at the moment, so I'm in command for now. Oh, I see. But Dad's usually here, huh? According to the schedule, he should actually be returning soon. If you'll be in Zeiss for a while, Miss Bright, you'll likely have a chance to meet up with him. Yeah, I might. Colonel Sid, it's time, sir. Right, we've been talking a bit too long, haven't we? Officer Belk, if you would please get the rundown. Colonel Sid, huh? Weren't you Major Sid before? Yes. I actually got the notice just a little while ago. I've been promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. Oh, neat. Well, congratulations, Lieutenant Colonel Sid. Thank you. To be honest, though, it's a bit embarrassing. I only did what my country and duty asked of me. Hey, there's no need to be humble. You earned it. I agree, sir. We'll be relying on you even more in the days to come. Officer Belk, I believe I gave you an order. Sorry, sir. Let me explain the subject of our request, then. You want us to assist with training, correct? What specifically did you have in mind? The idea is to have you participate in some staged battles against the soldiers. You'll be fighting 2 back-to-back matches with no time in between whatsoever. You'll need to consider your pace so you don't wear yourselves out completely. Non-stop combat with no breaks. This sounds like it's going to be kind of hard. It won't be. It'll be rough, I can't deny that. Your role is to go through both battles and not just test, but provide a model for our soldiers. So don't hold back. Fight both battles to win. Understood. Oh, don't worry. We won't be gentle. Well, this is sounding promising. Alright, Officer Belk, lead the braces to the training grounds. Yes, sir. I'll see you there, everyone. Follow me if you would. I love the sprites. Chibi sprites. This is kind of weirdly nostalgic, huh? Last time, I couldn't really get a feel for it since it was so dark. It was covered in dogs. But this base is huge. It's really cool. Not so nostalgic for me, but yes, I can see why they call it a fortress. This is the headquarters of the Royal Army, remember? Its purpose is a bit different from that of the smaller forts and guard posts you find in the countryside. I do believe the new meats we're to grind now waits us in the counter. There's 3 fights. Very well, with our challenges here, we'll begin the stage battles. Your opponents shall be a group of elite bracers. I suggest you give them your all. They are veterans, including the victors of this year's martial arts competition. The victors of... We're so dead. As explained, you'll be fighting a 2-round combat match. Keep that in mind and pace yourselves accordingly. We're ready. I can go as many rounds as you'd like, and more. Oh god. Sheriff, please. I'm sure you boys will get tired long before I do. No time like the present, then. Both sides, arms at the ready. Begin. Alright. Go ahead and these guys. 3. Oh, almost. 3. And a 4.
Piece of cake.
I forgot to equip Olivier with his gun. Oh well. Cease. You win. Aw, done already? I was just starting to enjoy myself. Sure, please. I'm glad, I guess. Ow, 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 ow. What are you men waiting for? Withdraw from the field. Sir. Next, Officer Belk. Sir. Oh, they got commander, or officer. They really aren't gonna let us rest. Oh dear. I wish they would at least permit me to straighten my hair. No less than I would have expected from champions of the arena. Try to lower my guard by giving me an opening, are you? No? I think you're getting a little too into it, Mr. Belk. We're still in training. Please abstain from personal conversations. Now then, round 2. Both sides. Arms at the ready. Begin. Okay. Oh, we've seen, Olivier's, limit break here.
Let me show you the true essence of beauty.
It looks way better than the remake, I will say that. And he's dead.
Piece of cake.
Cease. Another victory for us, eh? Somehow. We've lost. Officer Belk, can you still fight? Sir? Yes, sir. Good, then get ready. Yes, sir. Ready for what? Whatever could you mean? Perhaps you intend to throw us a party in celebration of our outstanding finesse. Party? Just ignore him. Very well. No, I asked him to prepare for another round, of course. What? You said we'd only be fighting 2 battles. I did. However, in response, you distinctly proclaimed that you were okay with any number of rounds. Sure did say that. I don't know if that's what she meant, but she did say that. Well, I may have said that, technically. Shara! Well, we can't do anything about it now. What can I say? I was caught up in the moment. I'd like to take you up on that offer and request one more round, and I shall serve as your final opponent. Wait, you, Colonel? Ah, so at long last, your true intentions are revealed. You cannot bear to watch and wait without testing your own skill as well. There's no need to hide such feelings, sir. Guess I've been seen right through. Ah, I see now. Well, don't worry, I'm always up for more. Okay, sure. Don't go to bot anymore, please. Sorry to keep you waiting, sir. It's no problem. Now then, let us begin. Are you prepared? Whenever you are. On your guard. Sure, we're not gonna deliver break, but we are going to Hurricane. Okay, Belk is dead. Sadist whip. Let's go ahead and spank him.
Someone's been naughty.
Poor guy. I love the gun sound effect. It just sounds like an old western.
99 kitty cat.
99 kitty cats. Okay, we won. I think, somehow. Thank goodness. That was close. No, it wasn't. I don't think we could have taken much more. Incredible. Total defeat. I'm impressed you did so well, even after back-to-back fights. You're the perfect model for our soldiers. No, sir, I believe you were the model. It's humbling to admit, but we learned a lot here. No, we didn't. Yeah, I don't think we've ever gotten pounded by arts like that before. We didn't use any arts because they killed them instantly. Maybe we should give our orbit setup another look. If you two learned something from this, that makes it all worthwhile. True power doesn't stem from the technique itself after all, but from how you use it. This goes for arts and crafts alike. Excellent advice. Members of the Royal Army train to improve ourselves no less than bracers. We fully intend to continue doing so for the sake of lasting peace in this kingdom. Yeah, we're gonna keep training as well. If the chance comes up, I'd love another shot. I'd certainly love another round, someday. You have my word that you will have that chance. After all, I don't intend to leave things as they are. I'd like a rematch myself. This concludes our training then. Good work, men. Alright. Friends, thank you for coming out here today. I'm sure we'll have more to ask of you in the future. I hope we can expect similar results when that time comes. You bet, Colonel Sid. We intend to support the military to the utmost of our ability. If you need anything, don't hesitate to contact the guild. I will, thank you. As a parting gift, let me offer you this. Officer Belk? Sir. Ah, a gladiator headband. Perfect. That's actually very helpful at all stages of the game. It may not be much, but it should come in handy at some point. I hope you'll accept it as thanks for your assistance. Thanks, Colonel Sid. Goodness, thank you very much, Colonel. Now, if you'll pardon me, I hope we meet again soon. Alright. Now the run back. Oh, right, I need to give Olivier his gun back. Controls, 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 controls. There we go. There we go. Okay. Did he not? No, he doesn't. Okay. Does he not have accessories on? But he does. Now, I think Anton shows up at the gate here. It is this game, so there's actually an achievement to... I'm not gonna do it because I'm pretty sure it's bugged. I followed a guide to find him every single time, but Anton shows up throughout this game in a lot of places, and if you talk to him every single time, you get like an achievement, but I got every single Anton interaction and it didn't proc. I don't know if it's broken or maybe I just suck. It's kind of intricate to do though, so I'm just mostly checking. I think he spawns on the very top. Yeah, there he is. Anton, you're facing towards Zeiss. If you hate the birthday celebration, at least scream towards the capital. I hate birthday celebrations! Ah! Farewell, my youth! My buddy Anton confessed to his favorite girl during the Queen's birthday celebration, but I think that's that chick that was walking around in circles and getting scared of him. He was totally rejected in the bluntest way possible. Apparently, he came here to erase those memories. Anton just cracks me up. I think he's in every game after this. He just keeps showing up all over the place. You know who else followed the party and showed up all over the place? Professor Alpha, also known as Weissman the Faceless. But to my knowledge, Anton is just Anton. He's not a secret villain or anything. Okay. Now we can go back. Let's go past the city. We can hand this in. That would be all these side quests. Forts. So all you have left to do is go to Wolf Fort. Oh, I don't know if I can... You talk to her about... No, you can't. Because the man in black, in the black suit, I'm pretty sure that conversation's a hidden conversation. It'll probably show up as a sub-event in the remake. But it adds a little... Those secret conversations add dialogue to the story that you normally wouldn't hear. It's in that top right area. Here. Oh, this is where the... Okay. Yeah, this is where the rocks are. Boxes.
Take that!
Hurricane.
Well, that takes care of that.
All right. And there's another achievement too if you read all the chests twice, but I've long since not done that, so I'm not gonna bother. Developers put like hidden messages in the chests when they're empty. Like this one. You have activated the staring contest. Thank you. No. Okay. Wolf Fort. And here's Wolf Fort. It's really peaceful here. I guess we don't need to worry about Calvard invading us and stealing our puppies or something, huh? Quite a difference compared to the Hawken Gate. Of course, unlike my glorious fatherland, Calvard and Liberal are easy friends. There are reasons for that, you realize. I imagine our relationship with Calvard has something to do with it, although beyond the gate is a mountain pass that would be difficult for a full army to pass through. That's why the gate is so small as well, as I recall. Ah yes, far different from the Hawken Gate, which faces onto a great open road. I'm still not quite sure about the free-range poultry either way though, there's chickens here. Anyway, let's start asking around about the earthquake, We should probably check in with the guard commander first. Right. Oh, there are chickens just running around here. Bastards. Come here, chicken. Give me a chicken. Okay, now I pooped out some eggs. So we want the commander. He's in here. Yes. CWO Pace. Or is it Pachi? Pace. You're the bracers the guild called ahead about, right? You're to investigate the earthquake from what Miss Killica said on the phone. Ah, yeah, that's right. Wow, I keep forgetting how thorough Killica is. She even keeps us on our toes every now and then. Anyway, we'll do everything we can to help. We appreciate that, thank you. Let's start with your account of what happened during the earthquake then. Well, let's see. The earthquake happened 3 days ago at roughly 1700 hours. The quake itself wasn't all that strong, and it only lasted 10 seconds. Still though, earthquakes rarely ever happen around here. Some of my men are spooked, let me tell you. The part that spooked me though. Once I contacted Command at Leyston Fortress to report. They told you that no other part of the region had experienced an earthquake, yes? Exactly right, miss. And it wasn't just Leyston. Even Sanctime, I think it's Sanctime? Sanctime Gate didn't feel anything, and they're practically up the damn road. I called into Zeiss and Elmo, and learned they'd felt nothing either. It's like Killica said. Speaking of which, did you hear there was an earthquake in Zeiss today? Yeah, I heard about that. And that's the thing, we didn't feel so much as a wobble here. Localized earthquakes that only strike small specific areas. Not what I would call the most natural thing in the world. So that's the earthquake then. Did anything else out of place happen around that time? Was anyone strange seen, for example? Though I've heard no meaningful reports of my men, it's possible they saw something so minor they didn't feel the need to report it to me immediately, though. Feel free to ask them some questions, maybe jog their memories a bit. Sure, thanks, sir. Let's go talk to the gate guards. Okay, gate guard. Oh, it's Brom. Huh? What's up? We're from the Bracer Guild. I hope we're not disturbing you, but could you answer some questions? Oh, sure. Estelle asked the soldier about any odd things he might have seen when the earthquake happened. Odd things? I was checking the light blocking abilities of my hat when the quake hit. I thought the chief was yelling at me at first. But no, I didn't see anyone around. I mean, I thought it was a prank at first, not an earthquake. It wasn't really all that strong. This isn't so much as a strange occurrence as an admission that you're awful at your job. Ah, but to sleep standing, that is a rare skill, Estelle. I, however, can consume an entire full-course meal while asleep on a sofa. It's not something to brag about, Lenheim. So, was there anything else you can remember? At all? Actually, Henning said he saw something weird, but... Something weird? Well, this was the day before the earthquake, mind you. One of the other guards here, Henning, asked if anyone passed through the gate. When I told him I hadn't seen anyone, he just shook his head. Well, that's curious. I wonder what that was about. He might be able to tell us something. Let's go talk to this Henning guy. I don't know where Henning is. Maybe in here? Henning? No, this is Rufus. What is it? So we're with the Bracer Guild. We'd like you to help with our investigation a little if you can anyway. No problem, not like I have any customers anyway. Estelle asked if anything odd had happened before or after the earthquake. Sorry, I can only remember the earthquake itself. Heck of a surprise that was. When it suddenly hit, I was like, ah! I was shocked. So was there nothing that caught your attention before or after the earthquake? Nothing particularly different from the norm, no. I mean, I was in this bar the whole time, so there couldn't have been a whole lot that could happen. Ah, yeah, of course. Doesn't look like there are any leads to follow here. Sorry I can be of more help. Nah, don't worry about it. Thanks for your cooperation. Okay, I don't know if resting here gives... Limit break gauge. Might just be the hot springs. It's just the hot springs, okay. Is this Henning? Oh, hello. What is it? Hello, we're from the Bracer Guild. We have a few questions about the earthquake that happened 3 days ago, if you don't mind. Oh yeah, gotta say it was a surprise. First time I've ever been in an earthquake. I had no idea what was going on. So what did you want to know? So the thing is, we talked to Brom and... Estelle explained what they heard from Brom. Oh, right, that. Yeah, I did ask him that. You asked if someone had passed through the gate? Yeah, let me explain. So 4 days ago, I just finished my watch and was going off duty. Just as I was leaving though, I saw a weird man coming up the road. A weird man? Was it a man was it a man garbed in white with a mask perchance? A mask? No, he wasn't that weird. It was a tall guy wearing a black suit. He also had these black glasses on. Black glasses? Those could be sunglasses, right? Yes. Such glasses are fairly rare, so it's very likely the same man. Sunglasses, huh? Anyway, just before I went on break, I saw him coming up the road. Most of the travelers had passed by here stopping at bars, so I figured I'd see him inside. I take it he didn't. Yeah, that's the thing. He didn't show, so I asked Brahma, he said nobody passed through. He's a lazy slob, but he ain't so bad that his job they just let a stranger pass without checking. Perhaps he had business at your barracks. He may have spoken to your commander, for example. See, I was pretty curious at that point and asked the commander. And he said nobody been in there during that time period either. So I had to wonder what happened to that guy I saw. Doesn't seem like he came through. Okay, this is really suspicious. We should tell Kellyka about this. Yes, this seems like a good lead. Thank you for sharing all this with us, Private Henning. My pleasure. I feel better having gotten it all off my chest. Okay, I don't think there's any other secret conversations. Give me a chicken. Chicken. There we go. Some eggs. Oh. I had to talk to the commander again. I think there's people upstairs too. Okay, so go back here. No, upstairs, maybe. We're with the Bracer Guild. We'd like to help with our investigation. I don't mind, but please keep it short. It's odds that anyone suspicious happened before it happened. Blah blah blah. Earthquake. You mean the one 3 days ago? The day the earthquake happened was just a normal day. If anything suspicious has happened, I'd have reported it long ago. I see. Seems this was a swing and a miss. Is that all you needed? Yes, that's plenty. We're sorry to have disturbed you during your job. No problem, we're both on the job after all, aren't we? Well then, you'd excuse me. Okay, so there's someone I do have to talk to. Is it... Wrong again? We did meet with Henning. Is there another guard? Can I actually go through here? No. Okay, so he does want me to talk to the commander, right? Where's the commander? I thought the guy inside here was the commander. Commander. Very strange. I guess talking to him initially didn't actually proc the story conversation. Hello again. Are my men helpful? Actually, yeah. Estelle told Pace about the man in sunglasses. So Henning saw a suspicious man. Hard to think he was something to do with the earthquakes, but he sounds suspicious regardless. I'll report this to Commander Leeson at least. Please do. Alright, I think we've learned all we can here. Let's return to Kilika with what we know. Alright. Alright, now to run all the way back. Hey, you lot. Good, I made it in time. What do you mean, sir? Has something happened? I contacted Layson about what we talked about previously and heard something surprising. Figured it was up to me to let you all know. Surprising what now? Wait, don't tell me. Yeah. There was just an earthquake at Sanctheim Gate. What? Hearing this, Estelle's group rushed to the Sanctheim Gate. Oh good, I don't have to run all the fucking way there. Sorry. Dale. Better to get Dale. What the hell is with you both bracers? Can't you say we're in the middle of cleanup after the earthquake? If you have to nose around, I prefer you do it later. I'm afraid this is our job, sir. Clean up or no. You have my word we won't get in the way. May we ask a few questions of the gate residents? HQ hadn't ordered it, I tell you a lot to clear out. I've got some urgent business to take care of. You can get the details to my second command, Warrant Officer Talbot. He's in the storage area over there cleaning up. We'll talk to him. Thanks. Just make damn sure you don't interfere with any actual work going on here. Now if you'll excuse me. And there he goes. Wow, it really is kind of bad in here. You think we should help out a little? I mean, just to be friendly? This is a military facility, Estelle. I suggest we simply finish our business and go. There may be secret documents or something such in this mess that the military doesn't want us lowly civilians to see. Oh, yeah, good point, I guess. Still, this is quite a bit more damage than the City of Zeiss earthquake, isn't it? That didn't cause nearly as much of a mess. The ferocity of the quake should be a primary line of inquiry then, as well as asking about our mystery man. Yeah, that guy in the sunglasses. Well, first things first, let's talk to the second command guy. Okay, I think he's in here, maybe? Nope. In here? Talia, no. Bishop Rebel. Second in command. Where are you? Here? Crap, this is gonna be such a pain to clean up. They'll out of my hide if it isn't done by nightfall, though. Excuse me. Sorry to disturb you. Then you are? Estelle and the company introduced themselves as bracers and explained they were investigating the earthquake. Ah, I see. Thanks to the concern, even if Dale doesn't share my thanks. So you want to know what the situation was like when the earthquake happened, right? Yes, and please, spare no detail. Understood. The earthquake began roughly 1300 hours, 2 hours ago. The earthquake lasted around 30 seconds. It was strong enough to knock down big piled up boxes. Wait, so compared to the quake at the Wolf Fort, last one lasted 10 seconds, I think, so it's both. Yes. The entire earthquake was worse, stronger, and longer lasting. And then there was the one which welcomed us to Zeiss. That would, I think, fall in between the other two. Meaning then that the quakes are getting more powerful each time. That's kinda bad, isn't it? The situation does seem to be worsening. But these are natural occurrences. I don't see how we could stop them. I don't suppose the Bracer Guild has any ideas. Well, we're not really sure yet, but we're pursuing a few leads. Speaking of which, did anything weird happen before or after the earthquake? Like, were there any suspicious people walking around? Suspicious people? Come to think of it, Chesley mentioned something about a strange man yesterday. He's cleaning the roof if you want to hear the details from him. Chesley on the roof. Very well. Thanks for helping us out, sir. Not at all. Good luck. Okay. So everywhere this strange man in black appears, in a black suit, an earthquake follows right after. Well, not right after, but soon enough. Chesley? Nope. Might be at the very, very top. Gonna go all the way around. Oh, here's Anton. This guy climbed atop the wall when the earthquake hit. He was so shocked by the shaking, he almost fell. Had the earthquake been any stronger, he might have really fallen. At least you're lucky in one way, Anton. Boy, that scary. I almost fell. Holy crap, I almost fell. It was scary. Poor Anton. I can't wait to see him later. Huh? Who are you guys? You're Private Chesley, right? We're from the Bracer Guild, Private Chesley. Maybe we ask you a few questions about the earthquake that happened recently. Estelle's group asked about the suspicious man Chesley saw. Oh, right, that guy from yesterday. I don't know if he has anything to do with the earthquake, but I did see a tall man with black sunglasses around. I knew it. It must be the same man seen at the Wolf Fort. Sir, did you see what this man was doing? He seemed kind of like a tourist, really. Looked at the scenery for a bit, then came down. He sort of caught my attention since you don't see glasses like his often. He didn't say anything to me and walked off, though. I didn't have a chance to talk to him. Okay. Did anyone else see this guy, maybe? You know, that's where it gets weird, thinking about it. I brought the guy up at dinner since he was kind of weird, but practically nobody else even saw the guy. The only one who remembered seeing him was Tammy, who works in the mess hall. Unlike the Wolf Fort, this gate sees quite a bit of traffic. And yet, despite this, there are only 2 witnesses. How wonderfully spooky. Spooky or not, it would be a good idea to talk to this Tammy and see what she knows. You said she's in the mess hall, correct? Thanks, Chesley. You're a big help. No problem. And yeah, she should be in the mess hall. Good luck with your investigation. Alright, back down. All the way around. Downstairs. Mess hall's here. All clean. Thanks to Goddess. Huh? You're Tammy, yes? We're from the Bracer Guild. Mind if we ask you a couple questions? Estelle's party asked Tammy about the man in sunglasses she saw. Oh, him, yeah. I passed by him on the 2nd floor in the hallway yesterday. I think he was coming down from the roof. That would match what our soldier friend said, yes. Did you exchange any words when you passed? Well, I did say hello. He just kinda grinned in response and said, yo. Ooh, just thinking about it makes me all tingly again. He was so wild. Oh no. I think I'm starting to get a picture of him. You remember what he was wearing? He had this dark suit, but opened really casually at the chest, right? He looked amazing in it. But he was wearing a pair of black gloves, I think. So, sunglasses, dark suit, and black gloves. Right. This guy might as well wear a sign on his head that says, I am sinister, be suspicious of my evil ways. Well, I wouldn't say suspicious. He just had a sense of danger about him. You know, that dangerous tough guy charm, right? Right. Anyway. So he just passed by and said hi, didn't see him afterward, right? Yeah, unfortunately. I chased after him a little bit. I thought we could, get to know each other, or anyway. I lost track of him in a weird way. A weird way? How so? It'll be easy to show you. Follow me. Excuse me, Sanders, can I step out for a moment? Yeah, go ahead. Let's get back before the dinner rush. Strange occurrences. So this is where I passed him, right here. He went walking in this direction. I turned to follow him after a moment, figuring I'd chat with him, right? Okay. When I turned, I saw that door over there closing. So I thought he must have stepped out. Here's my chance to talk to him before he leaves. So I followed him, but... by the time I screwed up my courage and came out, he was nowhere to be seen. In other words, I lost him. But I lost him here. Lost? But wait a sec. How is that possible? This is a dead end, isn't it? Yeah, and there's no way he could have jumped out from this height, right? I figured I made a mistake and thought he went elsewhere. I looked all over Singtime for him, but I never saw him. Kinda makes me want to jump off to get in there. I missed my chance. Ah, you poor kitten. If it would please you, I could help you forget such lesser men. Knock it off. No one deserves that kind of trauma. I think we have a fairly good idea of what happened now. You were a big help. Thank you again. You're welcome. So, is he some kind of wanted man? A super skilled, cold-blooded assassin on the run from the Bracer Guild? I don't know about that, but he's definitely a dangerous guy. Look, if you see him again, don't go near him, okay? Trust me. But he's so cool. Oh, well. Anyway, I've got some things to repair, so excuse me. Keep up the good work, everyone. Poor Tammy. Stupid Olivia. There's no way you could have jumped down from this height, huh? Estelle, does that remind you of anyone? Yeah. Lawrence leapt off the fucking castle into the lake. That silver-haired monster who jumped off the top of Gransel Castle. The man we know as Lawrence. If the other ones are like him, I think they could jump from here and survive. Yes. I think it's safe to assume we know who our wild sunglasses man is. Another enforcer of Ouroboros, just like the Phantom Thief then. I feel pretty confident saying that at this point, yes. I also feel confident saying we're done investigating. Let's return to the guild house. The plot thickens. These Ouroboros agents just love jumping off buildings, don't they? Continue. Wrong way. Army of Helm. Here we go. The guild. Guild. Tita, Professor, what are you doing here? Oh, Estelle. Hi. Ah, perfect timing. We're done investigating the earthquakes, but, what are those machines there? Good of you to ask, my dear. These are the little things I promised you earlier. We can get to that in a moment. First, you did, I assume, investigate the Sanctime Gate earthquake. I'd like to hear what you discovered both there and at the Wolf Fort. Right, okay, so Estelle reported what they learned at the fort, the gate, and in the city. So the earthquakes grow stronger with each occurrence, huh? This is quite serious, assuming the rate of growth you describe is constant. Yeah, one even stronger than the Sanctime one hitting the city would be really, really bad. And the man in sunglasses seen at all three locations. I would say it is all but certain that man is an agent of Ouroboros. Given that, I think helping Professor Russell with his experiment is in our best interest. Ah, I see. Those devices the professor brought will let us fight back with the power of science, Precisely so. These are septium vein measuring instruments I developed years ago. When placed properly on the ground, they could monitor the flow of a septium vein in real time. Septium, I know I always ask these questions, but what's a septium vein? They're huge veins of septium ore that run deep beneath the surface of the Earth. The energy flowing along them slowly moves to the surface. Or moves the surface, sorry. In the past, they were referred to as both Earth veins and Spirit veins, and I believe in the East they're called the Dragon veins. Very knowledgeable, just so. The peoples of the East have built their greatest cities on places where dragon veins converge since time immemorial. The ideal has always been to gather the energy of the land and use it to give strength to the nation. Okay then, I learned something. So these devices can stop earthquakes then? No, I'm afraid not. These only monitor the flows passively. However, one leading theory is that earthquakes are caused in part by septium vein flows bending the Earth. If we monitor the veins, therefore, we may be able to discover something about what's causing these blasted earthquakes. I see. That means we need to make sure to set these up before another earthquake occurs. Given that you brought 3 devices, I take it you have 3 spots in mind, Professor. I do. Take a look at the map. So, I need you kids to set these up in 3 locations in this region. First, on the northern Trat Plains, where the stone circle is specifically. Okay, I know where that is. Next, smack dab in the middle of the Chaldea Tunnel. From here, it's near the bridge. Okay, know where that is. And finally, in the front of Lacen Fortress. Here, here, and here. That's where I need to place the devices. Okay, I've got all that down. So do we just need to set them on the ground? I'm afraid it isn't quite that easy. You'll need to insert the sensor needle into the ground at the right angle, and also turn the antenna. An antenna? A transmission device, you mean? So these devices will transmit the information gathered to another location. You're sharp. The antenna will send the data to our calculating organ, the CAPL, so we can easily analyze the septium vein's movements. With the CAPL, we can monitor all 3 locations at once. It sounds pretty cool, I guess. Will you be coming with us to help set this stuff up, Professor? No, I need to prepare the CAPL for all this. Tita knows what to do. She can go with you. I get to work with Estelle again. Alrighty, Tita's worth her weight in mirror anyway. You don't mind, right, Shira? Not at all. Welcome aboard, Tita. Thanks, Miss Shira. Well then, I need to start tuning the CAPL. Once you've placed all the measuring instruments, head to the operations room in the central factory. Will do. Work hard, Grandpa. So we need to get all these set up before the next earthquake. Let's get to it. Before that, coordinating a group this large would be a little difficult. We should leave someone here in reserve while the rest of us handle the mission. Okay, I'm gonna take Olivier and Shira, I think. Because Olivier has the cloak.
Your aid, please!
Yes, we'll take Olivier. Very well, I'll be on the 2nd floor. If you need me at any time, don't hesitate to ask. This should be okay then. Let's see. So we need to set up instruments in the tunnel, in the North Plains, and in front of Lacen Fortress. Is there any order we should tackle that in? I shall leave that to your judgment. I will, however, contact Lacen ahead of you. If we explain our circumstances, I cannot imagine they will take issue with our gathering data in front of their gate. Good idea. Away we go then. Tita, sweetie, we're counting on you. I'll do my best. Boy, okay. Visit Eric, maintenance desk. The peeping Tom. Recently, you've had rumors of a peeping Tom around the open baths at the Elbow Hot Springs. Olivier, I like to come to Elbow when they have some time. Okay, that Plains Monster 2. So that Army Road Monster. Okay. So let's get the missing parts done. I think it's here. Yep. Welcome to the Central Factory Maintenance Desk. Are you looking for something? Aren't you the one looking for us? You're looking for... Wait. Ah, are you guys bracers then? Yes, we saw your request on the board. Thanks for coming. I really am in a bit of a fix. Anyway, do you have time to hear about the problem? Yes. To get right to it, it sounds like you're looking for something. Yeah, I'm looking for some small organ parts. was going around checking to see if the equipment in here was unharmed, and I guess they're all spilled out of the hole in my pocket while I was moving around. You had a hole in your pocket. Yeah, that do it. Yeah, this is totally my mistake. I knew it was starting to tear, but, well, I was freaking out when the earthquake happened, and I just stuffed them in my pocket without thinking. So they tumbled from your person while you were walking around. Yes, I believe we grasped the particulars of this case. So your job is to search for those parts. Yeah, that's right. But many orphan parts are delicate little things. Seeking them out sounds like quite the arduous task. Now that you mention it, that does sound like a pain. Yeah, I think so too. But fear not, I have a secret weapon for you. Secret weapon? Please use this. Metal. Oh, God, I remember this stupid mission. What's this? This is a bit of an oddball metal detector we've invented. The metal detector can pinpoint specific metals. In other words, you can select a specific material to search for. That does sound pretty incredible, but what does that have to do with the job? A lot, of course. I think I get it. But we set it to search just for the kinds of metals used in the parts. I see. So in other words, it can be set to respond only to the parts. Ah, okay, so that's how it works. Yes, exactly. Get close to something that looks promising and then use the detector. If there are any parts, there should be some kind of response. I'm not doing this manually. It's going to... I can't wait for it to be marked in the remake. Yeah, got it. This machine will be a big help, but we'd still like to cut down the areas we have to search. When you dropped the parts, do you remember where you'd been? I was in the workshop on the 3rd floor and the lab on the 4th floor. I'd already checked the elevator and hallways, so please just focus your search on those 2 rooms. The 3rd floor workshop and lab on the 4th floor. Alright, understood. I think there should be about 8 parts that I lost. Okay, this one shouldn't be too bad then if it's those 2 rooms. If we could find at least half, it'd be a big help. We'll do our best. If we find any parts, we'll come back here. Yes, please do. I'll also ask you to return a detector then. Do you have any other information to share with us? If not, then we'll begin searching. There is one more thing. Give the lab on the 4th floor a real one-over. I played with Antoine while I was up there for a bit. I'm sure I probably dropped a bunch of parts there. Antoine? You mean the cat living in the factory? Yeah, that Antoine. He'd be pretty cute, but this time I'm kinda annoyed with him. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to blame him, but I'm sure I lost a lot of parts playing with him. Aw, now I feel kinda bad for Antoine. Well, let's get to it. Good luck. I'm counting on you guys. Roger that. We'll be back when we find something. Okay. Need to find at least 4. I'll give them all a once-over. At the very least, so this is a workshop. Okay, so there's a way to, like, use the... manually go in here, then use. And scan this stupid room. That's one. This would be a lot faster if there was like a hotkey for the story missions or story items. Right here in the corner? Yep. Right here? Very nice, okay. Nothing. That's it. Okay. We're not gonna finish this chapter. We might finish this city. It's a Friday after all. Okay, I think this room is swept. Can't check this table. Okay. Fourth floor. What did he say? He said I found 3. A lab. Okay. All right. Sweeping this damn floor. Response very nearby in this corner. Behind the bookshelf? Yep, okay. Is that Tita there? You look as busy as always? Yep. And helping Grandpa out again. And Professor Russell sure is blessed to have an assistant like you. Unlike my assistant. Enough complaining. Tita, pardon me. You can go back to work. Okay, bye, Ray. Thank you, Ray. Okay, here. Pretty sure there's one in here. There is, okay. Open parts, nice. Okay, now check the tables. Scan every fucking inch of this place. Spawns in the vicinity. Up here. Right here. Yep. Open parts, okay. This shelf back here. Nope. Blackboard in this table. Okay, this corner. Nope, okay. These tables. Nope. Nope. Hey, it's been a while, remember me? I'm Terry, I was doing research on sneakers. Please say you remember me. Don't worry, I remember you. It was a job for Stregas. No way I'd forget a dream job like that. So, still researching shoes, Terry? Not anymore. Thanks to your help getting that data before, I was able to achieve my research goals. After handing the findings over to Strager Corporation, the job was finished. Oh yeah, I gave him your message like I said I would. I told him about Bracer fans and she couldn't wait to see the next new product. Really? Yeah, of course. The Strager developers are really touched. They were making jokes about making a Bracer model next. That was just a joke. Who knows? I thought it was a joke anyway. One way or another, I got my research funding, so right now I'm looking for a new research theme. I might ask to go for help again. I hope I can count on you like before if anything comes up. Yeah, don't hesitate to contact us. Also, I'm sure you know, but be sure to prioritize the task requesting the Strager Corporation, okay? And if you need a bracer, I'm your woman. Understood. She really, really likes those sneakers. Please understand. Okay, I'm gonna scan these walls too, aren't you? In the vicinity, okay? Here? No, this way. Very nearby. Here. Alright. These boxes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if I remember right, I think Antoine actually takes one to the basement. This I didn't look up, but it's a kind of detail that they would put in this fucking game. Where is he? Where is that cat? Can't even use the metal detector. Okay, the cat is somewhere. I just don't remember where. It might be on the 3rd floor? I know sometimes he's in the clinic. Design room. Who's that stupid cat? I don't know if you can even use the scanner in here. No. Maybe? There's the cat. Antoine. Okay, Antoine, do you have one? He does. Okay, I knew it. Okay, nice. Would you look at that? Antoine, you sneaky little cat, so you were carrying one of the parts. That one would have been very easy to miss. Come to think of it, Eric did say he played with him for a bit. Maybe he found the part and carried it back with him. I think so, but remember to bring it with him? Man. Meow. Sorry, little kitten. I'm afraid we had to take your toy. We'll get Eric to make it up to you. See you later, Antoine. Meow. Okay, now we can hang this in. Cancel job talking. Did you find any parts? It's going okay, I guess. But now we'll report what we've got. We're about finding 8 parts. Wait, did you really find all 8 parts? Oh, did we get them all? Incredible, I'd totally given up. Anyway, if you could give me the parts and the detector. Okay? Thank you so much. I didn't think all the parts would be found. Glad we could find them for you. Will this be enough for the job? Yes, of course. I kind of feel bad making you go this far. Oh, right. That reminds me. I had that... Have Eric. What is my prize? Here, please take this. It may not be much, but think of it as a symbol of my sincere and super relieved thanks. Buzzer. Wow, thank you. Are you sure we can take this? Yeah, don't worry about it. It really saved my butt. Anyway, thanks again for today. Thanks to you guys, I should be able to catch back up to the work I was doing. That's good, but you should really fix the hole in your pocket. Hell yeah, I probably should. So I better find a sewing kit. If you need help with that, just contact the guild. We'll arrive anytime, thread and needle in hand. Thanks for your thoughtfulness. Anyway, thanks again for today. I hope to see you again. You can leave the thread and needle behind, though. Yes, we'll see you then. Later. Alright. Done? I believe we can actually go down into the cave now. Put one down. Or rather, Tina will set up one of the transponders. Or whatever the hell it's called. Again, nothing is ever marked, so... Set in the middle of the cave. Right here? No. We'll see further in. Let's see. This is the place we're after. The first bridge in the Caldia tunnel, right? Uh-huh. We just need to sit up on either side of the bridge, I think. There's an orbital charging device over here, so this is a bad spot. I think Tita's dialogue changes a bit of agate. You picked agate to come with you for the early game. Which means... Okay, point the antenna just down the tunnel just so. This should be okay. Estelle, putting the device here should work. Should I set it up? Yes. Okay, I'll start setting it up. Give me just a minute. All done. Oh, so this is what it looks like when it's all together? Wow. What's, this dish-like thing? Oh, that's a kind of antenna for broadcasting orbital waves called a parabolic antenna. It puts out really powerful orbital waves that can cover really long distances. It can even broadcast them inside a place like the Caldia Tunnel. Most impressive tool. I don't recall seeing anything like that at the corner tool shop. Well, I don't think it's for sale anywhere yet. It's one of Grandpa's inventions though, so I bet the Central Factory will start selling them soon enough. Or pretty soon. Lovely. Olivier, is that your interest in technology showing? Why, whatever do you mean, dear Shara? I certainly don't know. Guess I'm too much of a country girl to appreciate how incredible it is. This thing will transmit earthquake info back to us though, right? Not yet. I haven't started it up yet. Just need to flip the switch. Yay, now it works. Great work, Tita. Although, is it really okay to just leave it here? Won't you get attacked by monsters? The antenna looks easy to break, too. It'll be okay. When it's powered on, it repels monsters like the street lamps do. Oh, okay. That works then. Hey, Estelle. Analyst, and Agate too. Huh? Estelle, Shira, it's been a while. It certainly has. You look well. What the heck? You guys got a friggin' family going on here at this point. Even Tita's here. Been a while, short stuff. Short stuff? That's mean. But it has been a while, yeah. What the? She's so cute. Who is this cutie pie? Estelle, you mean holding out on me in this cute sister department or something? You could kind of say that, I guess, yeah. This is Tita, the granddaughter of the Professor Russell of Zeiss. That right. Cool. I'm Analyst Elfried. Nice to meet you, Tita. Yeah, nice to meet you too. Oh, and your Erebonian's with you. Great. What are you doing here anyway? What a silly question, my good Raven. Do I need reason to help lovely damsels in their trials? And you guys, kinda got it hard, it looks like. Oh, it's manageable. Not quite sure I'd say that. Anyway, what are you two doing out here, Agate? Did you come looking for us? Nah, just a coincidence. We're in the middle of chasing down some clues about the Sky Bandits in the Intelligence Division. Huh? The Sky Bandits in the... You mean there are guys in those still on the loose? That's right, there are men from boats still on the run from the army. Do you have a lead on their whereabouts? Well, the guilds had witness calls pouring in. Most of them aren't all that reliable, though. We've been running around trying to find the needles in the haystack. More importantly, I heard. You guys encountered one of Ouroboros' henchmen in Ruan, right? Yeah. A weirdo in an opera suit calling himself the Phantom Thief. His questionable fashion sense aside, his power was frankly terrifying. If we tried to engage him directly, I'm not sure it would have gone well for us. Whoa, that's the first time I've ever heard Shara talk about someone like that. Ouroboros really is dangerous in that case. We're like a total friggin' question mark at this point. Anyway, remember, you need our help? Just say the word. The guild will be able to reach us easy. Yeah, we'll do that. Ditto for you, Agate. If anything happens, get in touch with us. We'll be there in an instant. I think we'll be okay. But I'll hold you to that if it comes down to it. Anyway, this ain't the best spot for a leisurely chat, you know. Gotta get moving. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. Agate? Short stuff? Well... No, sorry. It's nothing. Yeah, whatever. Anyhow, give my best to Russell, will ya? And don't spend too much time messing with machines, okay? Make sure to find some time to be a kid. Okay. But Agate, be careful, okay? You always do really dangerous things because you're so stubborn. You've gotten good at giving it back, short stuff. Well, yeah. I gotta start growing up sometime, right? Oh, that's what he told her when he slapped her shit on the top of that tower. Those soldiers, those Jaegers, almost killed her. Tried to shoot her. Agate can't lift a finger against Tita, huh? Well, see you guys. Estelle, Tita, let's hang out when we get together next. You bet. Okay. Man, I didn't expect to meet those two. Kinda looks like they're okay, though. They sure haven't changed too much. I gotta admit, I'm having trouble imagining what their travels together are like, though. Analyst has a very straightforward, open personality. She actually makes a good contrast to Agate's quiet and moody determination. Tita? Huh? What? Who? Estelle? What's up? You're kinda spacing out. Was I? I was just, surprised is all. Surprised? At what? Well, I didn't know Agate had a girlfriend. Girlfriend? You mean Analyst? No way. We're just partners on a job, Tita. What? You see, Tita, we split into teams to investigate the society in multiple parts of Liberal at once. She's watching his back, not whispering sweet nothings into his ear. It is a concept. Oh, I get it. Yeah, that is kind of funny. Funny. I bet it isn't for you, Tita. Still though, remnants of the bandits and the intelligence goons. Both groups do seem to be involved with the society in some way. With a bit of luck, Agate and Analyst should find us some useful clues. We'd better do our best too. Anyway, right here is fine, right? It should be. Let's go set up the other two instruments. Right. Okay. think so. Well, I'm not gonna say any spoilers for these spoiler later games, so never mind. I didn't say anything. Okay, so back to first floor. That's one part of the main story. Now we can do the other side quests. Let her hand us in. Okay. Ah, these are short term, so that means I might have almost lost out on doing that too. So it's probably best to do the Peeping Tom one immediately, as soon as you get it. Because passage of time occurs whenever a story beat happens, so. Elmo Village. Oh, hello. Now, what's brought you all together today? We're here to stay the night, of course. Yeah, I wish. Keep dreaming, Estelle. Unfortunately, we're here for work today, too. We saw the board. It seems like you've got some kind of problem. The board? Oh, that thing I contacted the guild about, huh? That's the one. Something about a peeping Tom creeping about. Yes, that's right. If you've got a minute, I'd like you to investigate immediately. Do you guys have time right now? Yes. Would you mind if we got right to the explanation? Apparently, someone's been peeping on my guests. It's a recent thing, but I've heard tell from a number of my female guests in particular. I won't stand for it, so I contacted the guild. Ugh, peeping Toms. Totally gross. When I find him, I'm gonna rearrange his face with my staff. Have you been able to get any specific details from your guests? It'd be helpful if they've seen the criminal. No, nothing that clear. You've been reporting things like the feeling that someone's watching them or strange sounds. Might it only be a misunderstanding of some sort? I thought so at first. But like I said before, I keep getting those same reports again and again. At this point, I can't just toss it aside saying it's a coincidence. That's certainly true, but it's kind of a problem. It's not even clear that this is a case, really. There's no way we can investigate properly without any specifics. Well, if it isn't clear, then we just have to put it to the test. It'd be hard to make an arrest unless we were to catch the perpetrator red-handed, so why not? Test? But what to the test exactly? Isn't it obvious? We'll take a bath ourselves. You want us to be bait to lure out the criminal? Well, it's better than just waiting for the peeping Tom to appear. You alone would be, you know, but with me and Tita around, no man could possibly resist taking a peek. Okay, come on, shit, not you too. Well, excuse me for not being sexy enough. Do not be disheartened, fair Estelle. What you lack in seductiveness, you more than make up for in raw nobility. Okay, Olivier. He needs to go back into the... I should have picked fucking Agate so he could knock some sense into his ass. Aw, give me a break. Even Tita's laughing at me. No, I wasn't laughing at you. I was just kind of happy. It's been a while since the two of us took a bath together. Sounds sweet enough, sure. But, you don't know this is a totally exploitative bait plan, right? I think Tita's on the right track. Forgetting we're working a case would make it a bit more natural, no? Let's just think of it as a short vacation and let our hair down. Alright, you wouldn't mind lending us your bath, would you, ma'am? Yeah, use it as you like. I'll reserve it entirely for you for a bit, so you four go warm yourselves up. Thanks, Mrs. Mao. I guess we're really doing this. Is everyone ready? Wait, who the heck put you in charge? In charge? You flatter me, but I'm really eager to be back in the spring's fevered embrace. My last visit is still quite fresh in my mind, so it's only natural that I, expert that I am, should guide you. That's what your mouth says, but you totally intended to casually follow us in the changing room, huh? Whatever could you mean? You think you could keep pulling the same old tricks? You got another thing coming, mister. Girls, you go on ahead. I have a little escort job to the men's changing rooms to take care of first. Thank you. Sorry, Olivier, but we'll be going ahead. See you at the outdoor bath. Well, fine. I'll return this favor at the bath when you do return the favor. My staff is going somewhere sensitive. And I will hand you over to the guild as the peeping Tom. Yes, ma'am. Understood. See, you just gotta threaten him with violence. There we go. It's so relaxing. Yep, outdoor baths are the best. It truly is paradise. If I just had a drink, it'd be perfect. Hey, sure, it doesn't matter much, but aren't you gonna let your hair down? I think not. This way I can don my clothes and jump out quickly, no? If I let it down, it'll take time to tie it back up. Oh, good point. Who knows when the criminal might show up after all. Still, it's a pity. I'm sure washing her hair would be most charming. You'll have to get that another time. I see. Well then, perhaps at our next chance I shall invite you to a top-class spa in my homeland. What is it, Estelle? Huh? Nothing. It's just a little suspicious, you know? Huh? Suspicious? Do you mean me and Olivier? Yeah. You idiot, there's nothing. He's a drinking partner, that's all. I am afraid I shall have to humbly refrain from accepting that title. Really? Sometimes the way you two talk feels like you're sharing a secret. It really feels like you understand each other, so yeah, I'm curious. Ah, I see. So that's why this came up all of a sudden. Unfortunately, that's a work thing. There are circumstances. Circumstances? Yes, but I'll explain it another time. This isn't the time to get sidetracked on other things. We're here to investigate, so we need to focus on the task at hand and be a bit more aware of our surroundings. Ah, you're dodging the subject. However, it seems coincidence is a fearsome thing. We really must be on our guard. Right now, in fact. Whoa! Is the peeping Tom here? You see that brush to the north, right, Estelle? Check it, but move very carefully so you're not noticed. Got it. There he is! It does look like something's there. Perhaps it's our peeping Tom. Now then, what shall we do? Even if we wanted to try and apprehend him, we cannot lay on a finger on him from here. Yeah, someone needs to get out first and go around. Estelle and I will go around behind him. Olivier, Tita, draw the enemy's attention. Okay. Understood. Well then, let's... Wait, what? What is it? Look, they're gonna run! Hey, wait! Oh, there's a whole bunch of them. Estelle, after the one fell in the fucking water. Got it! It's creepy sheeps. It's a whole bunch of creepy sheeps. Yeah! Finally showing yourselves, huh? Let's get to the punishing, shall we? Wow, they all start casting, too, at the same time. Okay, I don't know if I can kill all of them at the same time, but... Wow, miss. What the hell is that? Oh! Okay, this must be scripted, okay. Well, we'll just, yeah. I thought it was scripted. Is it not? I forgot to give Tita, equipment. There we go. Oh, God. They formed like a creepy sheep Voltron. What is it called? Big Sheep, the ultimate fusion sheep. Elevated beyond the color of wool. Sheep level 600%. We're still. Oh no. Oh, the suplex. Oh. Oh. Stupid sheep.
99.
99 kitty cats. That's it then. Yes, I believe this settles things. I never thought they can combine into one super creepy sheep. Given what we did to them, I doubt they'll return. So, but just to be sure... Oh no. Next time, my fluffy friends, I'll play with you even harder. Understood? Now go! Oh no, she's got the whip. My. So the peeping Tom turned out to be monsters. We can't be absolutely sure, but it's very likely. We taught them a lesson, so I don't think they'll be back. One or two of those guys I understand. But don't you think it's a little weird that so many were coming? It's very odd indeed. This is the first time we've had such a thing. Something must have happened. Maybe it has something to do with the earthquakes. Earthquakes? Well, I mean, sometimes monsters go a bit wild because of earthquakes. Maybe their habitat got messed up after a bad quake or something like that. It's certainly believable. Believable as it is, there's not much we can do about a natural disaster. If they show up again, I'll just have to give the guild a ring. Yeah, go for it. I'm always up for a chance to relax in your bath again. Well, if we're going to come back for a bath, I prefer to do it on our downtime. You guys are welcome back in the baths anytime, on the job or no. I owe you for today. If anything comes up, you'll be the first I call. Yeah, later. Bye, Mrs. Mao. Okay, so let's get our limit break gauges. I remember playing the original, originally. I was like, why are they called creepy sheep? I thought it was like the rat tails they have, the prehensile rat tails, but as it turns out, it's because creepy sheep are perverted. Perverted sheep. Okay, so that's that done. So the trap plane's monster number 2, and we have the sold out army ones. So there's a monster somewhere on this road. A boss monster. Bunch of creepy sheep here. If I can find it. Here. Yes. These mosquito things. Hurricane. Okay. Seems you came up short. Okay, that's one. The other one is going to be behind the city. We'd actually get it on the way to Lacen Fortress. Wait, is I supposed to put one at Wolf Fort? Oh, it's this way. Sorry. So we're gonna go east, northeast side, because yes. Oh. That's right, this is where that book from the records room was hidden. The stone circle is still spooky as ever, I see. They seem to have been erected with purpose, but I believe they predate even ancient Zemuria. They are quite simple. Someone simply split stones and slid them up. The Zemurians, the ancient culture that prospered on orbital power and disappeared. The tetracyclic towers in the sealed area beneath Gransel Castle are both Zemurian, right? So we believe, at least. This little circle certainly doesn't seem similar to those grand places. Appa told me once that there's a really strong septium vein running beneath this area. We thought this place might have been important to our religion a really long time ago. Which means it's a good place for examining the flow of a septium vein. I get it. Where should we put the measuring instrument, though? Let's see. Getting soon. I think I know the next big story beat will stomp. Ground here looks pretty solid, and it's not in the ruins. Direction is good. Estelle, it'll work great right here. Should we set it up? Yes. Okay, I'll start setting it up. Give me just a minute. There you go, Tina. All done. Now, flip that switch as hard as you can. Flipping... Baby sheeps. Ah! What the? Oh no, they're gonna have their revenge. Such a monstrous display. They must be attracted to the inactive quartz in the device. We've no other choice. Defend ourselves. Surprise attack, but our speed is too big. Too strong. Ah, that's right. We haven't seen Tita's thing, right? Can't well, so in the remake she oh wow. So this I forgot this is actually targeted technically. In the remake she pulls out the Gatling gun. I think he still is in this one, right? Cannon impulse. Yep.
Come on, everyone.
Jaw Rambo. Ah! Scary. I don't think Tita's voice actress is the same. I think it's someone else in the remakes and later games too.
Piece of cake.
Earthworm. Jim. Oh boy. I think we got them all. Those are definitely the nastiest creepy sheep-like things I've ever fought. Those darn dirty, calculating. Those monsters must be some of the new breeds Ellen mentioned. That was scary. Tita, are you injured? If you get hurt, I'll be happy to treat you. Just let Big Brother Olivier know. I'm okay. You all protected me. More importantly, I need to flip the switch. Yes, do so. Stay away from Olivier. Now it works. Good work, Tita. That's 2 instruments in place either way. Shall we go place the last one? Okay. That's 2. All the way back to the city. I wonder if someone made a fast travel mod for this game. I know there's been like... Because this game actually got a remake, or I guess remaster, on the Vita? PlayStation Vita? It might have been PS3. It had updated arts, profile pictures, and it also had Japanese voice acting, I think. I don't know how I feel about the updated art, because I really like the 90s kind of aesthetic for the anime style. For these early games, anyway. Okay, so that's all done. We have one more monster. It's this way. That's right, I need to equip Tita. But she's not super weak. Weaker than everybody else, anyway. The Omega Craft. Speed low, agility move 2, high defense. It doesn't really matter all that much. What that one? Strike a... Okay. Give her a gladiator headband. And... What else we got here? Speed up if possible. Okay, yeah, we got speed right here. Nice. Soul Orb. Alright. So there's a monster somewhere along this road. Soldat armor? Yes, Soldat armor road. Okay, monsters, where are you? Monster. There's a boss somewhere. There he is. Oh, he's on the road itself. Okay. Bum, 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 bum. Here with the hurricane. So what is Olivier's other one look like? This is Requiem Hearts. The raging barrage of shots that shatter the silence. That's right.
I call this Requiem for a Doomed Opponent.
The rose.
Take that! And there's napalm!
I forgot his loot is a gun. At least there's limit break. I don't know if that ever happens in this. Scary. Alright, this one dead. Lacen Fortress. Leysen Fortress. I know we were just here to help with the training, but it still makes me feel kind of nostalgic. I kind of thought that too. It was right when we were here last, it was night when we were here last, so it feels different though. Happier maybe? That's right, you actually broke into Leysen to rescue the professor, didn't you? Assailing the unassailable fortress. You don't do things by half measures, Estelle. Why, really now? You planned something that fun and you didn't contact me at all? Such fickle friends. Why wouldn't you extend an invitation to something so thrilling? And why exactly would we call you of all... Anyway, let's get the measuring thingy set up. I think it would be wise to get permission from the gate guard before placing anything in front of the fort. Hilika should have called ahead of us, so I doubt this will take long. Alright then. Hello, gate guard. This is Leysen Fortress, the headquarters of the Royal Army. I'm sorry, but civilians are not permitted entry at this time. I'll have to ask you to leave the premises at once. But we're from the Bracer Guild. Oh, right, you folks. Rand already passed on word. You need to place some form of measuring device near the gate, right? Hilika is quick and thorough as usual. So do you mind if we go ahead and place the device? You have permission, so go right ahead, wherever you want. Well, anywhere except the road itself, if you don't mind. We prefer to keep that open for vehicle traffic. Sure, no problem. Okay, let's find a good place. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's this little area at the side here. Oh. Alright, Tita, where should we put this thing? Let me think. So, if we're not allowed to put it on the road... There's a light nearby, but this should be far enough away, I think. And Zeiss is in that direction, so the angle... Yep, this will be perfect. I know it's right in front of the sign, but right here is the best spot for it. Should we set it up? Yes. I'll start setting it up. Give me just a minute. Just uno momento. All done. Well, flip that switch as hard as you can. Flipping now. Flipping. Now it works. Good work, sweetie. Oh, it looks like you're certainly keeping busy. Huh? Dad! Why, Cassius, hello! Hello, Estelle, everyone. It's been a while. I know it's a little late, but good work with your training, Estelle. Hey, good work. You don't know the half of it. What are you doing here anyway, Dad? Well, I am a member of the military, just in case you forgot. This is the strategic headquarters of the Royal Army, so most of the army brass works here. Oh, okay. Ah, now I remember. You've been placed in charge of the army as a whole, correct? Yes. Thanks in no small part to Morgan absolutely refusing to let go of the idea. In the end, let's say it came down to a battle of wills, and I lost. Thanks to that, I've not had a moment's rest in days, weeks. I can't even track the passage of time anymore. Sorry to hear that, Cassius. Oh, you work like that because you enjoy it, Dad. I have to admit, though, seeing you in a uniform again felt weird as heck at first, but now that I've gotten used to it, you really look at home in it, Dad. Naturally. You realize, of course, that you gaze upon he who was once the great dandy of the Royal Army. Even Richard wasn't half the lady killer I was. Knew it too. I'm sure Mom would be thrilled to hear that, Dad. I'm so glad. I'd heard you were really busy, so I've been a little worried, but it looks like you're okay. I'm surviving, at least. Anyway, Jean passed along the report from the guild. So they've begun moving already. You found one in Ruan. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we found one. A foot soldier of Ouroboros. As the report stated, their members are, to be blunt, Cassius, they're absolutely terrifying. Does the military have any contingencies in place to deal with the society? Honestly, if I could put together an agency to replace the intelligence division, that'd help. I've only just gotten the regular army and the border garrison welded back together and cohesive, though. That was a challenge. For the moment, we have little choice but to rely on the resources of the guild to investigate. I'm hoping you can look into these bizarre earthquakes we've been having while you're at it. Understood, sir. So you're relying on me for once, Dad. Don't worry, I'll shower you in filial piety and success, too. First time you've ever said something like that, Estelle. You look very good, too. Really have become much more of a true bracer. I'm sure Joshua would be impressed as well. Oh, I guess so. General Bright, Oh, Major Sid. Oh? It sounds like you've met recently. Yes, sir. It was during the special training I mentioned. It was a huge success thanks to them. I see. It's good you took the initiative so well in my absence. Now that you're a lieutenant colonel, I'll be expecting even greater things from you, Otherwise, I'll never be able to properly retire. Well, we can't have you retiring too early, sir. At least wait until General Morgan is retired first. And that'll be when he keels over at his desk most likely. Anyway, Lieutenant Colonel, it sounded like you had some business with me. Yes, sir. General Morgan will be arriving earlier than expected. He was due at the landing port within the hour. For the love of... That man is exactly zero patience, I swear. As you can see, I have a meeting with some of the brass to attend. I'm sorry we can't talk longer, Estelle. No, it's okay. I'm glad we got the chance to chat, even for a little bit. So am I. Sure, I doubt I need to ask it of you, but please continue to watch over Estelle. She's a senior bracer now, but she still lacks experience. Don't worry, Cassius, you can count on me. I see you're keeping up the hard work too, Tia. I imagine she can be a dunderhead of a sister sometimes, but help Estelle out as best you can, okay? I will, I promise. Oh, about the analysis of the gospel unit. Grandpa said he found an unexpected hint. I think he'll want to talk to you soon. I see. Sounds like you can expect some headway soon. Give my best to the professor when you see him. I will. Olivia is with you too? Thank you for helping my daughter. I know you have your own business. Thank you for putting it aside for a moment. Your thanks are unnecessary, Mr. Bright. I'd not miss the next chapter in our little opera for all the world. Well, as you wish. Just be sure not to neglect your own mission. Fear not, my friend, I haven't forgotten. What's all that? Well, if you'll pardon me, I won't have time to do much to help you directly, but if you find something big for the guild, contact me anytime. I'll help you as much as I possibly can. Yeah, I'm counting on you if it happens, Dad. Good luck with your work. I'll need it to keep Morgan off my back. Let's go, Lieutenant Colonel. Sir. Been lurking, how goes it? It's going. This game's main story is longer than the first game's. But much like the first game, it's also setting up a lot for the second half. The good news is that this game picks up a lot faster than the first game. The first game is a really slow burn, and then it all goes to shit at the end in the finale. Or at least the last two chapters. This game will have a high and then kind of go low, and then have another high and go low, and it'll keep following that until you get towards the second half. And then in the second half, it's basically all the way to the end. Very, very dramatic. Looks like Dad's even busier than I thought. Luckily, I'll be finishing up here soon. Just trying to get through some of these story beats. Leads to do our part as the guild and more. Indeed. Now then, let's find some answers and show Cassius just what we can do. Right then, that's the last instrument in place. Let's return to the Capel's room at the factory and check in with Professor Russell. Right, 5th floor of the factory. Remember, there's something over here. Chest. Oh, it's a fishing spot, of course. I'm not doing that. I have the Lake Lord fishing rod. I don't need to do fishing ever again in this game. I remember if you meet Lake Lord in the first game. Lake Lord. Lord of the Lake Lords. He's kind of like Doug Dimmadome, but a fisherman. Order the Dimsdale Dimmadome. Okie dokie. Where's the guild? Right here. And in the monster. Okay. That's all the side quests. I think that's it for this town. So all we have is the... Yeah, all we have is the story. It's Central Factory, 5th floor. Alright. Professor Russell, we're connected to the first unit and are receiving telemetry now. Yes, I see. Good, the connection is perfect. And even better, it looks like things are rock solid. Secure our connections to the other 2 units at once. Understood, Professor. I think they know we succeeded already. It seems so. Goodness, but this entire room never fails to take my breath away. Oh, Estelle, hello. Mr. Murdoch. Hi, it's been a while. We last met at the birthday celebrations, right? Yes, it certainly has been a while. From what I hear, you've been through a lot. I'm glad to see you're well. Well, thanks, Mr. Murdoch. Anyway, we got the measuring devices set up like the professor asked. Yes, we saw. We've got data pouring in from them already. So the capital is already running? Aye, Professor Russell's running some sort of program to sort the data now, in fact. Connections to 2nd and 3rd units, stable. Excellent, that's all 3 then. Now let me see. Good, good. Both of them are still at the pond. And we have links to all 3 units. Excellent. Ah, everyone. Wasn't expecting you back this quickly. As you can see, thanks to you, we're getting all the data we need. Good work, you 4. Well, really, all we did was carry the instrument bits. Besides, Professor, you're the one doing us a favor. You don't need to thank us. If you want to thank anyone, thank Tita. We couldn't have done this without her. What? No, I didn't do anything special. No, you did very well. Even the transmitters are perfect. The signal we're receiving is marvelous. Well, yay. So we're all set up right now, right, Grandpa? Can I do anything else to help? No, we're as prepared as we can be, I think. I programmed the Capel to begin analysis automatically if a disturbance is detected in the septine veins. Now we just wait for an earthquake again. So we pretty much hurried up to wait. I don't know if I can just stay calm while just waiting for an earthquake to strike ice again. Indeed. An earthquake hitting the city directly is a discomforting thought. Do we have a plan in case that happens? We've secured and locked down the factory for an earthquake. Even so, if the next earthquake is much stronger, it will be hard on us. At the very least, I can't imagine we'll avoid property damage. Unfortunately, the Capel here is the same. Strong enough vibrations could damage it, causing errors and making our experiment fail. So a prayer or 3 to the goddess would go amiss, everyone. I thought I was nervous before. Even with cutting-edge technology, we still need the favor of the goddess. Engineers can be really faithful, you know. I pray to the goddess a lot when I'm working really hard on something. She does have a point. I remember when Professor Russell was developing the first orbital airship. I was going to church 3 times a day. You could have had a little faith in something other than the goddess Chief Murdoch. After 39 failed experiments, could you blame me? They've always been like this, haven't they? I think they have, yeah. Either way, it seems we have quite a bit of time on our hands. Wouldn't hurt to return to the guild house, briefly report in. Yes, go on ahead. We'll contact the guild should anything happen. Uh-oh. What? Earthquake! Seems we don't have that much time to kill after all. All 3 instruments are reporting changes. The septine veins appear to be active. Continue monitoring. Don't take your eyes off them for a second. If the signals are interrupted, report immediately. Yes, sir. Now let's see. Data's still coming in from all 3 instruments. Given the direction the seismic waves are headed, the origin point of the Templar, coordinates are 12.73, 378, 0.02. Oh, very interesting. What do you mean? We know where that earthquake's epicenter is. It's Leyston Fortress. What? Dad! What? Are you sure? Uh-oh. What the? We're under attack! I start scrambling. Calm down, it's just an earthquake. Hold your lines. Stay in position. Little sprites running around. General Cassius, you... It seems I was right. Ordering a work stoppage at the port was the right idea. Incredible. I didn't actually think there would be an earthquake as you predicted. Cassius, just what kind of magic did you use? What magic? It's just logic, Morgan. The logic of our foe's desires. After 3 rehearsals, it was simply a question of what made the most tempting target. Cassius, ever the strategist. Chief, we received word from Leyston Fortress. They suffered a fairly large earthquake. We were right. What happened? Is anyone hurt? Thankfully, there don't seem to be any injuries. I think they mentioned they prepared in advance. Thank the goddess. That's Cassius, alright. That man has a danger sense of a fox. Now then, the Capel should have the results for us. Professor Russell checked the displayed analysis results. So let's see. Oh, this is interesting. What is it, Professor? Did we learn something? I do believe we have. According to this, the flows along the septium veins were altered significantly prior to the earthquake. The unusual flow is gathered beneath a single location, apparently. As it occurred quite close to the surface, it had little effect beyond the immediate area. That would mean... Oh. Hang on a second. You're saying someone's controlling septium veins in order to generate earthquakes on purpose? Literally an earthquake weapon, then. Sweet goddess. You have the right of it. A weapon that can cause earthquakes anywhere with septium veins. But Grandpa, controlling septium veins? Is that even possible? It's well beyond the capabilities of any earth-moving technology I'm aware of. I agree. However, we cannot deny the evidence in front of us. Someone has made it possible. Well, tough for them. Professor, can you use the data to figure out where the weapon is? If you can, we'll go stop it. Yeah, that's the spirit. Oh, perhaps I can. Right, pull back to the data at the start of the disturbance. Now, in what direction does the flow disturbance begin? I have it. 165.88 by negative 228 by 35? Huh? Tita, do you know where that is? I think so. Tita, pull out the map. The coordinates are Selchum's Ice's center, so... If east 12 Selch, north 378 is Leyston Fortress. East 165 Selch, south negative 228 Selch would be... What location is 165 Selch east and 228 Selch south from Zeiss? There's only one place on the map. You can read a map. Elmo Village. The hot springs. Yeah. I think it'd be about here. What? Well, it's hiding in plain sight, I suppose. Elmo Village. The tunnels which house the source of their springs hide our culprit. I can't say for certain, but it seems likely. So, what do you plan to do? Isn't it obvious? We're gonna go check it out right now. Yes, we need to hurry. Indeed. So, Tita, go with them. They'll need your knowledge and technical skill in their investigation. Oh, okay, I'll do everything I can to help, I promise. Well, this might be kind of dangerous. On the other hand, Tita will be a big help, so I sure can't say no. I agree. Tita, be careful, okay? I will. I'll contact Elmo ahead of you. I'm sure Mrs. Mao will be glad to help your investigation. Thanks, Mr. Murdoch. Hazel, get Miss Mao at the Elmo in on the line at once. Yes, sir. I'll remain here and continue to analyze the data we're getting using the Capel. If I discover anything, I'll contact Elmo at once. Thanks, Professor. If we find anything, we'll call you right away. Excellent. Good luck, everyone. Let's get to Elmo at once, then. I don't know if there's anything new on the Capel here. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there isn't. Nah, there isn't. Okay. So... we have the appearance of the man in the suit with sunglasses. The Wild Man, as he was called. And wherever he appears, an earthquake occurs. And we also have the source of the earthquakes, which is near Elmo Village. If there's anything to... There we go. No new side quests, which is good. Okay. What we'll probably do is get to Elmo Village and then call it there. I have a few things I need to do. Fuck. Oh, there's a chest there. So what the fuck? Okay. So straight up. Ah, good, good, you're here. Mrs. Mao. Hello again. Murdoch called ahead of you lot, told me what's happening. There have been earthquakes all over the region, eh? Odd. Odd nothing. This whole thing is bizarre, but maybe you can help us. Actually, I'd like to turn that around. I was about to contact the guild anyway. Something strange happened just a few hours ago. What? An earthquake hit here too? I almost wish. An earthquake might be less destructive. Well, picture's worth 1,000 words, huh? Come see for yourself. Oh no. What in the... The springs are boiling over. This really is bizarre. The water is supposed to get this hot. Believe me, I'd like to know what's going on here too. Right after I got off the phone with Murdoch, I heard a big fuss out here. I came out to see what was going on and found this. Maybe the pump is broken somehow. It might be emitting heat or... Wait, no, it couldn't heat all this water. No, the pump's working just fine. I checked it a second ago. The way I see it, something at the source of the springs must have changed. So I'm guessing temperature changes like this aren't too common. It's never happened while I've been here, and I've been here half a century. It's worrying to say the least. It seems as though this could be related to our quaking earth, no? Perhaps the excitement of the septium veins has increased the temperature of the water. That's really likely, actually. And if the water keeps getting hotter, the springs will be too dangerous to live near. Like heck we'll let that happen. Come on, let's go find a problem. Mrs. Mao, where exactly is the source for the springs? Would you mind if we investigated the problem? I thought you might ask that, so I fished this out of the back of a drawer. Go on, take it. The wooden gate key. A key? It's the key to the wooden gate near the pump shed. The cave down to the source of the springs is that way. Sweet. Thanks, Mrs. Mao. I didn't know there was a cave like that. You're always so on the ball, Mrs. Mao. Thank you. Oh, don't worry. We're the ones asking you for a favor after all. I can't well let the customers boil themselves like eggs, so we can't even use our water for washing. Say fishing. I'm counting on you all to get to the bottom of this. You can bet we will. A mysterious cave which may hold the secrets of the earthquakes that have plagued us. We should only take to that stage when we're properly prepared. Yes, I suspect we might find a certain sunglasses-wearing gentleman inside. We should be on our guard to prepare accordingly. Okay, so I'm going to get the limit break gauge. Oh, probably. Oh, wait, I don't think I can now because right, everything's yep. Okay. Well, it's 12:36. I suppose I could actually. And I have the cloak. Second. Get all our get it back at least. Mountain Man Steel. Yeah, fuck it. We can just do it now, I suppose. I'm going to actually save though. I think this is the end of the city. The gate is locked. Use key. I don't remember if that's. I think it's the end of the chapter too, but I don't recall. Just don't remember. Hot Springs Fountainhead. It's back here. Just storage. Okay. Hot Springs Fountainhead. They have my cloak. Cloak on. Wowza, it's really boiling in here. If you fell in there, the birds could kill you. It's scary. While the boiling water can cook us like lobsters, the steam is an even greater concern. Water need not be liquid to be deadly. We must be careful. Yes, a very good point. The geysers seem to follow a pattern. We should watch them carefully and move when we have an opening. Okay, follow me. I think we're should be okay to just walk through everything, actually. The max level. Now, I think in this cave, I don't need anything in here, but if one were to go through this game, oh, here's that. No, it's not okay. I thought that was an abyss worm. There are monsters in this series called abyss worms. And abyss worms target your entire party. And they're very fucking annoying. Luckily I have New Game Plus stuff, but man, those things killed. They literally actually just fucking deleted my party a few times. Okay, the damage you take from these things is percentage based, so I can actually get killed by the geysers in here. I'm actually trying to find a way to continue, so I'm just gonna follow my rule set. Always left. Only way to dodge a delve. What's up? Very nice. What the heck is... It's spread all over the ground. Glowing veins of... No way, it can't be. You sure know how to keep a guy waiting. Hey. A man with sunglasses. And a gospel on the pole. Well then. Evening, ladies. Good of you to come all the way out here. I'll do what I can to make you feel nice and welcome. Ew. You're one of Ouroboros' thugs, aren't you? Enforcer number 8, Walter the Direwolf. That's what they call me at any rate. Pleasure is all yours, trust me. I'd assume you're the one behind these earthquakes then. Come on, let's knock it off with the obvious and just get down to it. This pole is a little trick the society's brains came up with to mess with septium veins. It normally just screws with the vein directly beneath it. You plug a gospel in this thing though, and you can cause a local earthquake or two. That's what I was asked to test. Your experiments are over then. Yeah, real shame too. What I wanted to do was work up enough power to shatter buildings. Couldn't quite get it to hit that much force though. Wait, but if the buildings collapse, all the people inside would get hurt. You catch on quick, little girlie. Some of them would get crushed under the rubble. Their arms and legs mashed into jelly, screaming like pigs. Others? They'd get quick deaths, heads shattered like eggs, spilling their brains out on the road for everyone to see. Hey, I got an idea. How about we do that to you instead? That blonde head of yours looks pretty fragile to me. No, get away! You unbelievable son of a... now what's with those faces? I've been doing you all a favor. You see, I just think the dreary, soggy porridge in most people's lives needs a little spice. Rolls in suspense, you know. And it leaves you in a cold sweat. Push to the point. You could die at any second. Come on, don't tell me I don't have your heart pounded. Oh, congratulations. You are now the worst man I've ever known. I think I see your plot now, however. You lured us here deliberately, didn't you? What? You allowed yourself to be seen all over the region, and Elbo's hot springs boiled over immediately after an earthquake at the fortress. It was all a way of broadcasting your location to us then. Oh, crap. Oh, close enough for bracer work, I guess. Enough talk. Let's see what you're made of. There they are! Speaking of abyss worms, the heck are those? These are some worms that live in this area. Apparently, when you stimulate the septium veins, they grow as huge as these guys here. Well, have fun, ladies. Oh, what the heck is this? You rotten coward. Fight us fair and square. Don't let him distract you, Estelle. We need to defeat the worms first. Courage, my friends. These fuckers. These sons of bitches. Okay. We'll be okay. In this fight, well, I won't have to demonstrate it, but in this fight, if you don't have... Where is it? Is it Earth Wall? If you don't have Earth Wall, you lose this fight as far as I'm concerned. Earth Wall is like... It's needed to complete this fight. And maybe a clock up EX. God, I do not... I have no fond memories of this fight right here. Luckily, this is New Game Plus, so... If you have any... Or just as a demonstration, you Earth Wall your party. Stay together and just try and survive. This fight can be really... It's a real bitch. It's a real bitch. Death Scream. I don't recall what these things are weak to. They're weak to wind. Okay. This shit right here. This is the party wiper attack. Now, I'm not taking any damage, but in a regular run, this is what kills you right here. That would hit you for like 2/3 of your HP. And then you would use this ability because this gives you immunity to damage. I'm not looking forward to this fight in the remake. This fight in the remake is gonna be a pain. Whenever there's abyss worms, there is death sure to follow. Tina herself isn't super powerful as well. Definitely gonna have her raw support in a remake.
Alright, we rule!
Okay, you managed to win, and I think I still have most of my limbs. Phew. Such vulgar foes. Might have expected a bit much. I thought that fight would be a little less pathetic. You underestimate us at your peril, dire wolf. You've slain monsters like your pets many times before. Screw it. This is just sad. I didn't think you'd be this weak. What? I'm disappointed in you, worms. Oh, he's got the fist. Oh, here comes the giant fist. This is bullshit. Okay, again, this name comes up, and it changes pronunciation every single fucking arc. In the anime, he's called Lo. Yeah, that's how I pronounced it. Initially, it was Lo. In later games, it's later on he's called Luve, and in the remake, Joshua calls him Live. I'm kind of partial to Luve myself, so. Luve was talking out his ass again. He tells me the Divine Blade is the only one I'm liberal and might give me a run for my money. And this is what I get? That? No. Well, nothing for it then. I'll just have to sweet talk the professor to let me hunt old Fangboy. Maybe a little more exciting than this, at least. What? Hold on. What? You can still talk? You disgusting sicko. Listen to me. If you mean Joshua when you say Fangboy, I will never let you hurt him. Estelle, I'll give you props for taking my punch and still being able to stand. Give it up. I can see your knees buckling. You really think I care about that? I'll find Joshua. I'll bring him home. And I won't let scum like you get in my way. Estelle. You get why they call me the direwolf, right? I don't hold back for women or kids. Or both. You're a martial artist, sort of. I hope you know what you're asking for by pointing that thing at me. Of course I do. If you think you can beat me, come on. Nice. Tell you what, I respect your guts. You'll die in one blow. I'll make it quick. No, Estelle! Estelle, run! Die! Or rather, Shide. Ooh, it's him, the Pewee! What? Ah! It's him! Big Zin! Eastern Giant. Think, Adios, we made it in time. Chloe? And Zin? Hey, Estelle. Feels like it's been ages. I meant to come sooner, but work back home took longer than I expected. I'm glad to say I made it in time. Don't tell me you didn't time that one on purpose, Zin. So you're the A-rank bracer Luve mentioned. Perfect. Been a while, Zin. That's right, Walter. I hardly expected to meet you here of all places, though. I always knew you had the mind of a wolf, but tell me, when did you develop the heart and loyalty of a serpent? Oh, that'd be right after we met last. I've been having the time of my life since I joined the society, too. Blind fool. Do you even realize what you've done? What you're doing? It would break Master's heart to see it. Oh, spare me the righteous claptrap. You know better than anyone the path I've chosen. You keep talking nonsense, and I will kill you. Got it? I wonder, do you even know? Does he know? Kilika's up there, and Zeiss. What? She's been working there as a guild receptionist for the past 2 years. Before then, she was wandering the continent. The hell? Why bother coming to a backwater place like Liberal? What's she thinking? I don't know either, to be honest, but I do know that even now, she wants to see you. Set aside this Ouroboros madness, Walter. Go see. Ooh. I told you, talk nonsense. I kill you. Well, hey, forget Kilika. You being here just made my year. This Planet of the Professor is gonna be a whole lot of fun. Wait, Walter. You ladies keep working on your kung fu until next time. See ya. And there he goes. He just vanished. Walter! Thanks for saving us, Zin. Why are you here, though? I stopped by the Zeiss branch and Kilika began fussing at me a little. They told me to hurry on over to Elmo to join forces with you. Kilika was worried, so I felt I had to come too. So we have Kilika to thank. Well, thank you too. You really saved us there. Putting that aside, though. Zin, you actually know that psychopath? How is that even possible? He's an old acquaintance. I'll explain in detail once we return to the guild. With Walter's device gone, the dragon veins are calming, so the hot spring should cool down. Estelle's group took the chance to relax in the springs once they returned to the surface before going back to Zeiss. I see. So the man in sunglasses was Walter, as I thought. Yeah, wait, what? As you suspected from the beginning? When I heard his physical description and clothing, I thought it might be possible. More to the point, you were careless. How could you allow him to escape with the gospel? Oh, come on, I didn't think it was that important. Did you forget that you're the one who shoved me out towards Elmo without so much as half an explanation? That was a mistake on my part, yes. I thought, however, that you wouldn't need me to spell out every single detail for you, Zin. Ugh, you're far less cute when you do that, you know. Regardless, Estelle Bright, your investigation into the earthquakes is complete. Allow me to give you your compensation for this mission. Nice. Thanks, Kilika. But, it sounds like you two know that nut in the glasses. What's up with him? We do. How do I even begin? Quite simply, Zin, Walter, and I, we were fellow students. Walter was the elder student. Elder student? You mean he was your elder in martial arts, then? Well, to be precise, Kilika wasn't a student, or just a student anyway. She was Master Ryuga's... My part does not matter. Walter is a student of the Taito style. And 6 years ago, he left the dojo, and it seems he was recruited by Ouroboros soon after. That should explain everything. Kilika. No, that's all we need to hear. She's right. So he uses the same Taito style as the two of you, huh? That explains his monstrous strength, at least. He's even stronger now than he was in the dojo. It's safe to say he's a true master of the style now, I think. What is properly safe to say is that he's incredibly dangerous. It seems likely we won't be dealing with any more earthquakes, however. It is probably safe to relax our guard. A bit. Seems like it. I'll let the citizens and workers know. They used another gospel, though, and they were using it in conjunction with some kind of machine which could stimulate septium veins. Well, when we consider what was done with the hologram projector beneath the Genis Royal Academy, it seems safe to me to assume the gospel massively increases the capabilities of other orbital devices. Yes, I believe you are correct. Holographic projection and excitement of septium veins are both possible in theory. What they do with these gospels, however, is completely beyond our understanding of orbital technology. And I don't mean just my understanding. I can't imagine anyone I know at any famous factory managing any better. It's true. I doubt either the Verne Company in Calvert or the Reinford Company in the Empire could do such things. Even the Epstein Foundation, for all its progress in tactical orbits, couldn't manage such feats. In other words, the Society's got crazy super technology nobody else does. Indeed, they must have someone of tremendous genius and skill working for them. Well, I'll just have to show them what for. Grandpa. I suppose we have no choice now. We've finished the Arcea's new orbital engine too, so we have free capacity. We'll devote the central factory's full resources to analyzing the gospel sample we have. Of course we will. If you can figure out what the gospels are, it'll be a big help. I mean, who knows what else they're going to use them for after this. Their agents keep talking about experiments as well. Somehow, I find it hard to believe that they'll only stop at 2. If Professor Russell will be taking care of the analysis of the gospel, I believe it would be best if your group moved on, Estelle. Yeah, I agree. We didn't catch the bad guy, but there won't be any more earthquakes at least. Any suggestion on where to go next, Kilika? The central branch of the guild in Gradsel sent us a request for aid. They claim to receive an official mission directly from the leadership of the Royal Army. The Royal Army? You mean from Dad? They did not share any details. They did, however, request all of you by name. There's a good chance this involves Ouroboros. Probably, yeah. Well, we can hardly turn down an invitation from the capital, now can we? Then it's decided. Once we finish our last bits of business in Zeiss, let us board the next flight to the capital. Sounds like a... Wait, we? Zin, are you coming with us? Nay now, why do you think I came all the way back here? Not only is Walter on the prowl, but you're still searching for Joshua, yes? You can bet I'll help you, in any way I can. Aw, thanks, Zin. Having you with us will be like having 100 men on our side. That fiend with the sunglasses did nearly break us like twigs. If you can help us train to resist him, it'd be a great help. Of course. His moves are pretty special, but I can teach you all some counters at least. Thank you. Estelle? Shara? Can I come too? Huh? Well, the Society might use more weird devices or more gospels. I think I might be able to help if they do. Please, take me with you. But, well, this is a bit of a pickle. I'd say it's up to Professor Russell. Sir? Well, I have to say that the grandfather in me is filled with terror at the mere idea. But, as you can see, my little Tina is quite stubborn, and I want to make her dreams possible whenever I can. So go ahead, Tina. I won't stop you. Grandpa, you Ouroboros clearly have a greater technological edge than we could have ever imagined. In that sense, Tina is absolutely correct. She could be a great help to you. I'd say you're getting quite a deal. You're not selling a new product here, Professor. I'll admit having Tina along really would help, but if someone like that man attacks us again, Well, it occurs to me, especially given what that madman said, I don't believe the Society cares at all for the safety of civilians. I don't think we can really say she'll be all that safer here. Oh. In other words, she might actually be safer traveling with us, Or at least it's no more dangerous than staying here. I think so, yes. Chloe, Shara. Okay, I get it. Come on, it's not like I wanted to say goodbye to Tita either. Estelle. Or, that is, well, anyway, we'll be counting on you, Tita. Okay. Oh, good to see that settled. Our little group grows livelier all the time. Tita, do take care. I'll take care of unraveling the mystery of this gospel business while you're gone. Don't worry. Okay, good luck, Grandpa. Don't worry too much about Professor Russell, everyone. I'll keep both eyes on him and make sure he doesn't cause any catastrophes. I'm counting on you, Mr. Murdoch. Oh, don't you have a church or something to run off to, Murdoch? I will contact Elman at the Grancel Guildhouse. May the blessings of she who dwells above be with you. Take care on your journey. Okay, we didn't see the end of chapter 2. Very nice. Okay. Then we'll see the, if there's a cutscene, we'll see that and call it. Chapter 2, The Raging Land. So we had holographic projectors in the first chapter, and now we have man-made earthquakes in the second one. Chapter 2, end. Lacen Fortress. So the RSA has arrived, huh? Ah, damn. Every time I see the ship, my heart skips a beat. I hear you, boss. Who needs a guy or a girl when you can fall in love with something like that? Don't think there's an engineer alive who deserve to work on her every day, though. That's my line. Maintenance Chief Gustav, thank you for coming. I know you've been busy. Hey, Sid. Was expecting you to come meet us. I thought you moved up in the world and left behind your job as garrison commander here. Well, I have. I'm intending to leave aboard a patrol ship with my men later on. Until then, however, I'm free, so I thought I may as well come and greet you. Well, good luck with the patrol at least. Oh yeah, wasn't there an earthquake around here a bit ago? You didn't let anything happen to the Arcee, did you? No, the Arcee was in the air during the earthquake. The earthquake caused little damage in general, in fact, we were prepared in advance for it. Our facilities should still be perfect for your needs. Good to hear. Anyhow, we'd love to get down to work, but I'm wondering, where are all the Royal Guard folks? Ah, here, let me show you. We should be just in time for a bit of a show. Huh? Ooh. Combatants, at the ready. And begin. Yeah. Cassie's too fast. Oh, he didn't even look at her and he blocked behind him. Julia, your attacks are too predictable. With a rapier, you should be able to overwhelm him with moves only possible with a light blade. Remember what I taught you, and come at me again. Sir. Yes, sir. Ooh. Too fast, too fast. Good, that's better. And now, my turn. I love watching the chibis fight. Oh, it kicked her right in the middle of the air. Defense is the same way. Build an image of the flow of battle in your mind, offense and defense, and use it to predict the foe's movements. Sir. Ayah. Almost. Come on. Oh, kicked again. And oh. Enough. I call the match. Poor Captain Schwartz. Not a whit less than I expected. I only taught you the barest of basics all those years ago. But But you've come far on your own, Julia. Well done. No, sir. My performance was shameful. I cannot best you. Don't disparage yourself, Schwartz. That was a fairly impressive display. But, General, remember who you're fighting, Captain. I've yet to meet a man or woman who can match blades with Cassie's without having their swords up in their hand in a few strokes. You did very well for yourself. I see why Cassie's and Her Majesty place such stock in you. Thank you, sir. Still, a chance to practice like this doesn't come up very often. I'd like to continue until I'm truly unable to fight, if you don't mind. Good. Well, Cassius, up for risky skewering again? You may well manage it this time. Well, I'd be humbled to get poked down a peg. But I believe we have a visitor. Sid. Dang it, that wasn't one heck of a show. Well fought, both of you. Captain Schwartz, that was very impressive. Lieutenant Colonel Sid. And the man with you is? Maintenance Chief Gustav, ma'am. Central Factory sent me over. Nice to meet you, Captain. Oh, pardon me. I'm Captain Julius Schwartz, Company Commander of the Royal Guard. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Gustav. Well, it seems that will be all for today, then. Alright, lads. Show's over. Back to your posts. Sir. So, might show me to the RCA's engine room? I'd like to get an idea of how we're going to attack this. Certainly. Follow me. You'll have to excuse me, General Morgan, General Bright. General, thank you very much for your guidance. Not at all. These old bones needed a workout anyway. Captain, Mr. Gustav, take care of the RCA. Sir. No worries, General. RCA's like my baby. I won't let her down. Captain Schwartz has gotten quite impressive. I swear she's even better than when I saw her last. Yes, she's come a long way, very quickly. Even now, she's only a step or two below you and Richard, Colonel, and she can only grow. Indeed, watching youth on display like that gives me back a bit of my old drive. Cassius, how about it? I'll give you a skewering later if you're up for it. Morgan, I'm not sure it'd be the best idea at your age. Besides, I heard you did quite well for yourself at last year's tournament in Gransil. You have to let the young folks have their moments occasionally. Why do you think I gave you command? If you could say that, how about you stop complaining and do your job, Ouch, put my foot right in that hornet's nest. Brain started turning to mush. Speaking of a hornet's nest, Lieutenant Colonel, I believe you'll be assigned to the guard patrol. Yes, sir. I'll be leaving at noon. I'll be using 3 companies and 2 patrol ships. I'll be at the signing ceremony itself, and I won't be free until then. You're in charge of the defense of Gransil until then. Leave it to me, sir. I'll be sure to work well with the Bracer Guild to make sure that nothing happens. I don't like it, but I suppose we've little choice but to lead on those civilians this time. Warming up to the guild a little, Morgan? What's that? Canone. Captain Amalthea. Watchtowers, orbital sensors, a mined harbor, and gun emplacements covering all approaches. A perfect defense in every way. That's the way you want to play, Cassius Bright. I'll just have to change the rules of the game a little, as suggested. Sir, just wait a little bit longer. Your freedom is coming soon, Colonel. I promise. Chapter 3. The Mad Tea Party. Oh, man. You know what that means. We'll see some of it next time, at least. As in...
Right!
Just because I don't want to re-equip Olivier without his cloak. Or rather, unequip it from him. Put on someone else. Okay, next stop, Gransil. We'll head to the dock once everyone's ready. This is a request from the military, so I don't think we should dawdle too long. We should have time to finish any stray jobs or stray shopping before we have to go, though. Off we go. Okay, we'll stop there. Actually, I think I want to bring Tita and leave Olivier back.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I'm gonna equip. There we go. Equip Zin. Nice strength up. So you can one-shot shit. Tiger Heart, yes, nice. Okay, go over his orbments. Now Zen is a physical tank, so his orbments aren't super important, but put a hit quartz on him. And attack 4 for sure. There we go. Okay, we'll go ahead and save. That is where we'll end for now. We'll see chapter 3 sometime next week. Now, there was talk. There was talk that Monday might be a collab, potentially. It's kind of tentative, but possibly with Doom Guide wants to. It's been itching to play something together on stream. So we'll see what is planned then. We'll have another co-op stream on Wednesday with Alice, and later in the week playing more Trails as well. If there's no collab on Monday, I might still stream on Monday. I'm actually kind of itching. I'm gonna look and see. I want to play something scary. I want to play a horror game. I'd have to look at what's new though. But I'll figure that out over the weekend. So thank you guys for coming to hang out or lurking. Either which one. I always appreciate both. I do not discriminate whether you lurk or whether you are actively in chat. It's not a big deal to me. So I'm just glad that you're here. So as always, friendos, viewers, wanderers, take care and farewell.